those years as a superhero in Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301, Big Rat. Harry personally ordered that the accounting and finance and other business elites from the New York headquarters boarded the commercial aircraft of the Osborne Group and arrived in Osaka at around 3 p.m. Eastern Time. There were not too many courtesies and welcoming ceremonies. On the commercial aircraft owned by the Osborne Group, these business elites have already had a full rest. The moment they got off the plane, they were ready to start working. In a super consortium like Osborne, these people receive almost twice the salary of ordinary companies outside, which also requires higher requirements for their professional qualities. On the eastern Osaka side, nearly 30 entourages who originally came with Harry have already set up an outpost for these people. The two gangs merged into a large team of nearly 100 people and began to conduct a thorough investigation of the entire eastern branch. Pushing open the glass door of the branch building, nearly 100 business elites in neat suits rushed to where they should go in an orderly manner, including the finance department, legal department, import and export department, warehousing and logistics management department, etc. Most of the Eastern employees did not get the news that the head office was going to conduct a thorough investigation. The sudden appearance of a large number of Western faces surprised the Dongyang employees and even caused a small commotion. It was not until Chairman Yasuda issued a public statement that this was a routine headquarters inspection that the commotion was suppressed. However, everyone was a little uneasy. The headquarters inspection is conducted every year, but basically there will be a notice 2 months in advance. Our side will also do a good job of handover. But this time the inspection was a surprise attack, and no one was prepared. And the scale of the inspection team this time was too large. Does the team of hundreds of people want to completely isolate the company's top management? The smart employees have already thought that the Dongyang branch is going to change. The employees from New York left and launched a thorough investigation of the Dongyang branch. Now everyone understands. This young boss, who is less than 18 years old, is not a guy to be messed with. A lion is always a lion, no matter how young or old it is. Standing by the window, through the blinds, Harry glanced at the staff of the Oriental branch, who were in a panic because of the headquarters investigation, and said, "It looks a bit chaotic. Sometimes chaos can make the flaws surface." Li Ji said non-committally. "At least let the employees here clearly realize who is the one who really pays them." Harry shrugged his shoulders, indicating that what Li Ji said made some sense. "Do you really suspect Chairman Yasuda about a possible illegal reselling of equipment? Before the suspicion is eliminated, he is naturally the most important suspect. And we probably need to conduct some investigations on him. Later when Peter comes back, we may do something unconventional." Li Ji sat down in Harry's office chair and raised his hands and said, "How about playing a spy agent game, like 007? I've been looking forward to it like in the movies for a long time. Osaka City Chuo District. This is the administrative center of Osaka and also the wealthy area of Osaka. Yasuda Eiji's residence when he lived in Osaka was in this district. And a noisy quarrel was going on in his house. It's all because of your plan. What about introducing Mariko?" Now Mr. Harry's dissatisfied, and he has started to thoroughly investigate the Toyo branch. The one who raised this question was the middle-aged bald man who had been drinking with Chairman Yasuda and others at Sakura Ryota. And the target of his anger was the sharp-looking man. "Don't blame me for everything. Didn't you agree with the plan at that time? Why do you push things onto my head when something happens?" The sharp-looking man also fought back without showing any weakness. "Don't forget that I proposed this plan for everyone. Don't you all want to retain your existing rights? But now it has caused Mr. Harry's dissatisfaction, making him feel that we are overstepping his authority and even doubting the operation of the Toyo branch." Another man who had been seen at the previous banquet, the honest man, was also there. He said a little hesitantly, "He had a plan, don't you understand? He must have been prepared a long time ago." The sharp-looking man said confidently, "That's enough. No matter what the reason is, the top management has started to thoroughly investigate the Toyo branch, which cannot be changed." Yasuda Eiji shouted, interrupting the quarrel of the three. "We are not at the right time to quarrel now." Because of Yasuda Eiji's shouting, the three people were quiet for a while. But after a while, the honest-looking man still whispered to the sharp-tongued man. "It's weird. Everything was fine. You dragged me into the water. If the company finds out that there is a problem with the warehouse I am in charge of, I will definitely be in big trouble. You were not like this when you divided the money. When 500 million yen was put into your pocket, you didn't refuse." The sharp-tongued man reminded him that if you divide the money, you have to bear such risks. In the black market outside, the equipment of the Osborne Group cannot be purchased at a premium of 30%, and some weapons even require a premium of 40%. If you want to make such a high profit, you have to bear the corresponding risks. Don't forget, you begged me to help you make money at the beginning. Don't think of turning your face and denying it now. The sharp-tongued man's words made the honest man unable to speak. My only worry now is that our previous actions will be exposed. To be honest, we have actually gained a lot of benefits in the more than half a year since Mr. Norman passed away. Even if we are fired by the Emperor, the money we earn is enough for us to live on for the rest of our lives. The middle-aged bald man spoke. But if we are exposed, we illegally resell the company's property. Although there is no evidence of any manipulation in the accounts, it is a real violation of the legal principles and we may be imprisoned. The man's words made everyone fall into a certain contemplation. He was right. Yasuda and his team did do some things in the half-year of management chaos after Norman's death, such as selling the company's weapons and equipment to some illegal organizations for huge profits. There is no shortage of crazy people who crave high-end arms in this world. Because they lack legal channels to purchase, they are willing to buy these equipment at a price 30% or even 40% higher than the market price. Chairman Yasuda and others never care what those people do with these equipment. You have to know that in addition to the principal and profits that must be handed over to the company to fill in the accounts, they also need to pay a lot of money. The extra 30% of profit will go into their pockets. Everyone knows that arms have always been one of the most profitable commodities in the world. It can be said that in just half a year, these people have reaped a lot of benefits. The one who led all this was the sharp-tongued man. If he hadn't got a connection, he could pretend to buy from the company through legal channels and then resell it to illegal organizations, then none of this would have been possible. The four people gathered here are four rats in the Osborne Group. They eat the public salary and enrich themselves. While the four people were talking, they didn't know. The conversation they thought was secret was heard by the other three people without missing a word. Chapter 302 Collusion and Assassination. Just as Eiji Yasuda and his friends were discussing their problems in the room, outside his residence, Leiji, Harry and Peter were standing quietly outside the wall. As the boss of the eastern region of the Osborne Group, Chairman Yasuda had installed quite a lot of security facilities for his house. Most of them were products of the Osborne Group. It was a bit troublesome to break through its security facilities without making any noise. Fortunately, before Hank left, Leiji asked him for the simple invisible stand launcher he had made. He had wanted this kind of thing for a long time. It could not only block detection by traditional means such as radar infrared rays, but also could not be detected by visible light with the naked eye. This equipment was really useful. The stealth equipment of SHIELD was designed by Hank, and it was decades ago. Now that there is a chance, of course, we have to find a way to make one. Beast Hank was quite generous and directly handed the simple invisible stand to Leiji. Leiji and others were now driving the invisible stand and standing directly in the courtyard of Eiji Yasuda's villa. Yasuda and others were talking in the living room of the villa, which happened to have a large floor-to-ceiling window and sliding door facing the courtyard. Leiji and others relied on their stealth equipment to approach the living room where they were talking. Chairman Yasuda and the other four had never expected that the content of their conversation was no longer confidential. Chairman Yasuda said to himself, "There will be no problem with the accounts. All shipments and funds are strictly recorded. And not a penny is missing from the group. There should be no problem with the import and export department. You are in charge of the legal department. Are all the purchase procedures complete?" Chairman Yasuda turned his head and glanced at the sharp-looking man. "All the procedures are complete. Purchased by third-party countries, mostly from small countries in Southeast Asia. There are no loopholes in itself." The man nodded to confirm. "The only thing I'm a little worried about is the Yasuda Group. They also bought a considerable amount of equipment. Mr. Harry's in Japan now. If the Yasuda Group is accidentally exposed at this time, or if the Osborne Group's equipment is revealed in the fight, it will be hard for Mr. Harry not to be suspicious. He will think that we are colluding with the Yasuda Group. The sarcastic man's words seemed to still think that he and others were not colluding with the Yashida group. In fact, without Mariko's matchmaking, how could this man get the false purchase procedures of those countries? If that's the case, tell Miss Mariko. Just ask her to pay attention during this period. I believe she won't want to cause trouble. Chairman Yasuda said calmly. Mr. Harry Osborn can't find anything. And we have made a lot of money for the company in the past 6 months. We are obviously an arms dealer, but we are still picky about customers. This business strategy is really ridiculous. Whether it's the Middle East, the Ten Rings gang, or those warlords who fight to the death, what does it have to do with us who these people kill with weapons? Harry, who was in the courtyard, was a little angry when he heard this, and his fists clenched unconsciously. Mr. Harry is still too young and doesn't understand the unspoken rules of the business game. We can't blame him here. But Jason Lee next to him is too annoying. He repeatedly hindered our action plan. He is really a trouble next to Mr. Harry. So what does Chairman Yasuda mean? The other 3 men have already understood the meaning of Yasuda Eiji's words, and stretched their necks to look at him. When notifying Miss Mariko, tell her about this incident as well. I heard that Jason also stopped Miss Mariko last time in Kyoto. I believe she also understands that this person is an obstacle. She will know what to do, and I will find a way to create suitable conditions for her and eliminate this ignorant person. This kind of young man does not know how to do business at all. Having him around Mr. Harry will only lead him astray. We need to get rid of this villain and clear the court. Yasuda Eiji's tone was already murderous, making the 3 people present silent. After that, the 4 of them talked about some trivial matters, and left after about half an hour. Lee Ji and others who had been standing in the courtyard and listening to the 4 people's plan returned to their hotel when they saw that there was no more news. Bang! A natural crystal sculpture of a swan hit the hard wall with a loud noise, and the transparent crystal fragments shattered. The originally beautiful crystal swan was broken into pieces and fell powerlessly on the floor, covered with luxurious carpets. Harry Osborn was unprecedentedly angry. There are many reasons for anger. The subordinates disobeyed orders and illegally sold the company's weapons and equipment. At the same time, these guys said one thing on the surface and another behind the scenes, and they looked down on me. They even wanted to murder my friends. If one day, these people are bold, will they kill me too? For the first time, Harry Osborn felt a chill on his back. These old guys who have been in the business world for a long time are so fierce. Lee Ji and Peter did not stop Harry from smashing in the hotel room. This is the 3rd piece of furnishings he has broken. Only now did he feel a little calmer. They dared to do this. Did you hear it? Harry tried to calm himself down, but his tone was still a little heavy. You need to calm down, Harry. You are not on the right situation now. Peter pressed Harry hard on a sofa. Harry wanted to struggle, but he was not as strong as Peter. He had to be firmly pressed on the sofa by him. Did you hear what they said? Not only are they stealing the company's property, but more importantly, they are now looking for someone to kill Jason. Harry took a deep breath and said, Yes, I heard it clearly. They want to kill me. Lee Ji nodded, signaling Peter to let Harry go first. About them reselling the company's equipment to terrorists, warlords and gangsters. We should have expected it beforehand, Harry. It's useless to be angry about it now. Lee Ji patted Harry's shoulder and said, Yes, we should arrest these guys now. Harry still had some youthful impulsiveness. After arresting one Yasuda Eiji, won't there be another Yasuda Eiji? The nature of the country of Donggyang is too chaotic. The government is in charge of the country during the day, and the underworld is in charge of the country at night. Lee Ji said to Harry and Peter. When Uncle Norman was alive, he was able to rely on his prestige and skills to suppress these people and make them obedient. Unless you want to give up the entire Eastern Division, you have to do the same as your father. Use your own methods to let them see what you, Harry Osborn, are capable of. We can't use lynching to arrest these people. We need a public performance. Let everyone in the eastern side realize that the Osborn group is under the control of you, Harry. Lee Ji looked directly at Harry and said, Don't they want to collude with the Yashida group to kill me? Let them come. Chapter 303 You have a son. Ginza is the most prosperous commercial center in Tokyo. The largest corporate groups in the Orient are located here, including most of the overseas group headquarters. For example, the headquarters of Stark Industries is located in Ginza. Perhaps it was a decision to compete with Stark Industries that year. When Norman Osborn set up the Orient branch, he avoided the Tokyo business circle. Instead, he turned to the Kansai center of the Orient, the Hanshin-kyo business circle, namely Osaka, Kobe, and Kyoto. There are many high-rise buildings in Ginza. Sanyo, Sony, Toyo Bank, and other major groups in the Orient have set up offices here. There is a special building in Ginza that seems to be somewhat out of tune with the surrounding modern buildings. A snow-white Japanese castle was built in imitation of the famous Azuchi Castle in the Orient, the residence of Oda Nobunaga after his rise. The blue tiles and white walls seem to be unusually abrupt on the modern streets. The entire castle occupies a large area, and there are Japanese walls built around the castle imitating the Warring States period. Inside the wall is a huge courtyard. There is even an artificial hot spring inside. On the left side of the castle is a 50-story building, which is not conspicuous at all in Ginza, where there are many high-rise buildings, if it is not matched with a Japanese castle next to it. In Ginza, where every inch of land is valuable, this huge area seems extremely luxurious. And all the people working near Ginza consciously or unconsciously retreat from this building. In addition to the building next to the castle, the other buildings closest to the Japanese castle are also hundreds of meters away. It seems that this beautiful snow-white castle is a pathogen that makes people stay away. Of course, the building itself is not the reason for fear, and it will not spread diseases. What really makes the surrounding companies afraid is the sign erected on the castle. 500 years ago, the daimyo in the Warring States period would insert their own signs on their own territories, and this sign of swearing sovereignty was called a family crest. There are very few families in modern Japan that still retain this tradition. And now the family crest that the Japanese people fear the most is erected here. A sign that looks like a traditional Japanese building with a bridge. The owner of this family emblem is the Yasuda family. This is the underground leader of the Kanto region, the underground ruler who rules half of the east in the dark. With Nagoya as the boundary, the former Tuikei governed the area west of Nagoya, while Yasuda governed the area east of Nagoya. Unlike the global killer organization of the Tuikei, the Yasuda group is very low-key internationally. They rarely extend their tentacles to forces outside the east. They concentrate on managing the east and make their jurisdiction as solid as a rock. Because of this single-minded management strategy, the Yasuda group has a greater influence on the east than the Tuikei. After all, the Tuikei is an illegal organization, and Yasuda often has a more official identity. This gives them many helpers in the political arena. Except for people inside the Yasuda group, most people have never entered the Yasuda group's building, and few people are willing to go in even for business talks. This has also led to various legends about the Yasuda group's building. For example, there is an army kept by the Yasuda group, and its equipment is more advanced than that of the self-defense forces. There are countless rumors like this. There is no smoke without fire. There is indeed a group of thugs kept by Mariko in the Yasuda group building. In fact, it is not wrong to call it an army, except that there are not so many people. They are all equipped with various advanced weapons. And a considerable number of them are weapons of the Osborn group. If Lee Ji and others were here, they would be surprised to find that the Osborn group has reduced some costs and improved the mass-produced outer armor suits based on the technology of the Green Devil armor. There are at least more than 100 of them here. This power armor named Elf Armor can provide the wearer with an additional 700 kilograms of load. And the running speed is as high as 35 kilometers per hour. It can effectively defend against 12.7 mm and below caliber bullets, non-black gold armor-piercing bullets, depleted uranium armor-piercing bullets. It also has an auxiliary aiming system, as well as a life support system and infrared thermal imaging detection system for special operations. This set of armor is real military equipment. The Osborn Group only exports it to the country and will not sell it to any private individuals. Because everyone knows how powerful this kind of armor can be when it is equipped in batches and in series. In addition to the US military starting to purchase a large number of this kind of armor, many other countries have also purchased a batch of this kind of armor. Among them is Japan. The elf armor purchased by Japan in advance was only 200, and now 100 of them have appeared in the Yasuda group, which reflects the terrible control of this group over Japan. The head of this group, Yasuda Mariko, was answering a call from Yasuda AG in the office of the building. "Kill that Jason." Mariko's face was expressionless. If possible, it is indeed a good idea to get rid of him. But he has been following Harry Osborn. Accidentally hurting Harry Osborn is not the result I expect. If you can lead him away alone, then it is indeed feasible. Mariko did not object to killing Li Ji, because she had discovered in the last brief contact. Li Ji has a very large influence on Harry. And this influence will affect Harry's decision. The important thing is that Li Ji seems to be very wary of cooperating with the Yashida group. And his old and heavy attitude that doesn't look like a young man are obstacles. She needs the research and development power of the Osborn group because the child has great potential. Her grandfather once wanted to transfer Logan's self-healing factor to himself. In Mariko's view, that is a way to lose sight of the main goal. It is never the best choice to exhaust the pond to catch fish. In addition to her own immortality, Mariko knows very well how useful a child with Logan's genes is. He will become an important bargaining chip in her hand. Mariko believes that she can completely control the child. Because as the child's mother, she knows the child too well. Just as Chairman Yasuda was talking to Mariko, far away at the Osaka International Airport, Logan had already bought a plane ticket and was ready to fly back to the United States. This nostalgic trip in the East was a bit sad. This also made the wolf more lonely and desolate. In the waiting hall, he wanted to smoke a cigarette, but soon an Oriental sitting next to him stopped him. The Japanese man spoke standard American English, without any Japanese accent. "Sir, smoking is not allowed here." Logan glanced at the man, who looked like a standard Japanese man, holding an English magazine in his hand. He was unrecognizable in the crowd, and the only thing that stood out was his English. Maybe he was a salesperson sent to the United States or doing a similar job. Logan thought about it and put away his cigarette. Logan had almost nothing to bring except a few changes of clothes in a small backpack. This made him stand out on the waiting hall. Feeling a little bored, the Japanese man looked at Logan sitting there bored, and walked up to talk to him. But Logan had no desire to pay attention to him at all, just glanced at him, then shook his head and didn't answer. "Well, I think you might need this. I'm about to board the plane. This book is for you." The Japanese man didn't care about Logan's attitude, but smiled and put the English magazine in his hand on Logan's knees. Then he looked at his watch and it seemed that it was time to board the plane, so he left in a hurry. It was like an ordinary encounter at the airport, a friendly chat with a stranger. This did not alert Logan or anyone else. Perhaps it was because he had been waiting for the plane for too long, and Logan really felt very bored. He still picked up the English magazine that the man gave him. Well, it was a magazine about Hollywood movies. On the cover was the news of the release of the Lego movie. Logan curled his lips and opened the magazine. He was not very interested in Hollywood gossip and movies. He opened the magazine just because he was a little bored and wanted to find something to do. While flipping through the pages quickly, a postcard sandwiched in the magazine caught Logan's attention. On the back of the postcard with a cherry blossom pattern was a short paragraph, which almost made him scream out, "You have a son, Logan." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304: The Consequences You Need to Bear. The inspection team from New York came with great fanfare, which indeed made many middle and low-level employees feel a sense of trepidation. However, contrary to the aggressive momentum, the final inspection results did not find any problems. There is no problem with the accounts, all the financials can be matched. There is nothing wrong with the numbers. Harry said in the office with some disappointment. All purchases and imports and exports have perfect procedures. There is no sign of illegal reselling. We can't find anything. Yes, look at the data. All purchases have a source. The Japanese government's Army Self-Defense Force, the Thai military, Vietnam and Myanmar. Well, there is also Laos. Li Ji said while looking through the data interface. It's okay for Japan and Thailand. Countries like Vietnam, Myanmar, and Laos have always been poor. When will they have the money to buy weapons from the Osborn Group? Aren't they only able to buy the old antique weapons that have been retired from Russia or the United States and have been used for decades? Their warships parked in the port should be able to directly set up a ticket office for people to visit. Right, Naval Museum. Li Ji said viciously. He didn't have any good feelings for these Southeast Asian countries. Whether in the past life or in this life. These Southeast Asian countries are a bunch of troublemakers. The military and government officials of these countries are extremely corrupt. It is very likely that some officials issued fake purchase agreements in the name of national purchases. In fact, the two sides did not transfer accounts at all, but just made a shell transaction. So can we catch those guys based on this clue? It's not a good idea to hand over advanced weapons and equipment to terrorists or some crazy warlords. Peter Parker was also quite enthusiastic about this matter, which was related to his character with a strong sense of justice. It's difficult. Osborn Group is just a company. We are not qualified to ask a country to issue their receipt, let alone to check their equipment. As long as they don't need our after-sales service. Harry shook his head. Of course there is another way, which is to notify the US military and Congress. Let the government come forward and check these countries in the name of investigating terrorism. But if we really want to do this, Osborn Group will have to pay a huge price. Whether it is money or favors. This price is too high, and it will not help to reverse Harry's prestige image. Leiji said another way, but he quickly rejected it. On the contrary, it may allow the military to intervene in the development of the company. The US military has long wanted to intervene in the weapons manufacturing departments of Osborn Group and Stark Group. Especially after Stark Group closed its weapons research and development department, their covetousness for Osborn Group has deepened. Leiji's words made Harry and Peter fall into silence. Business competition is full of cruelty. In the face of huge financial interests, human life is just a dispensable background. Especially for something like the arms business, which is linked to politics, there are too many interests to be weighed. If you can't sail on this turbulent sea, you will be swallowed up by the vast ocean of greed one day. Perhaps Harry and Peter only vaguely understood some of the concepts of the darkness of human nature in literary stories and film and television works. This trip to the East completely exposed this dark greed and selfishness in front of them. Doom, who is willing to let hundreds of thousands of people die for his mother's soul and even drag the whole world into the war. He took risks for money and interests and illegally resold the group's property. He even made up his mind to kill people in an instant because others blocked his way to wealth. In order to achieve his ulterior motives, he even used his own children as a weight, without any mother-child affection. The ugly side of human beings was undoubtedly revealed in this not-so-long trip to the East. This naked darkness had a huge impact on both Harry and Peter. Both of them are cheerful and sunny boys, always with a positive heart. But they lack experience in the evil of human nature. So Leiji's action this time is not only to help Harry solve the problem of the East Asia branch. At the same time, he also hopes to use this incident to convey a basic message to the two. That is, bad guys are treacherous, and good guys are more treacherous than bad guys. Only in this way can we deal with those evil guys who do things without considering the consequences and are insidious and cunning. That's why I said we need some wild ways. Leiji said when he saw Harry and Peter were a little frustrated. What you said is like the plot on the 007 story. Peter had heard Leiji mention that some wild ways were needed to obtain evidence and intelligence. Yes, but what is James Bond? He is just an ordinary person, and we have 3 superheroes sitting here. Leiji's words finally made the scene a little more cheerful. We may have to play the role of corporate espionage. Eiji Yasuda is indeed an old fox. He will not leave any clues in the company's records. But such old foxes will always have various suspicions. They are not only worried that the company's problems will be discovered. They are also worried that their partners will find some evidence against them to threaten them one day. So he will definitely leave himself a way out. And we already know that the Yasuda Group must have played an important role in Eiji Yasuda's illegal transactions. So I think we still need to investigate the Yasuda Group. Leiji carefully analyzed the character of Chairman Yasuda to the two of them. If this operation fails, it goes without saying. But if it succeeds, it may have an impact on the stock price of Osborn Group. Leiji said this and has begun to consider the follow-up matters for Harry. There is an insider in the company, and there are problems with the senior management. This will inevitably affect the company's stock price, and it is even possible that the disclosure of this news will cause a sharp drop in the stock price on Wall Street. Leiji looked at Harry with sincere eyes, because the final decision on such matters lies with Harry. So before you really take action, Harry, you must think carefully. How are you going to deal with Eiji Yasuda and his group in the end? Either choose to make it public and risk a drop in the company's stock price, or decide to solve it secretly. No matter which choice you make, I will fully support you. Li Ji's Peter looked at Harry with two pairs of eyes, waiting for him to make the final decision. Chapter 305 Old Wolf. This choice is a test for young Harry. For businessmen, business comes first, and people come second. Many people have been doing business for a long time, and only businessmen are gone. But most businessmen are vested interests who control a lot of wealth and resources in this society. In the Spider-Man story of Another Time and Space, Uncle Ben Parker said to Peter before his death, "The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility." As a businessman who controls most of the resources in this society, especially a person like Harry, who is already at the top of the pyramid of the entire human society, his every move can profoundly change the fate of many people. So he needs to be more cautious. After a long silence, Harry said in a hoarse voice, "I need to make all this public. Whether the company's stock will fall or not. Some wrong things must be exposed, even if it will suffer a short pain." Peter sat next to Harry, patted him on the shoulder and said, "You did the right thing, Harry. You need to set an example for others. The Osborn Group should not touch any illegal business. Don't be so depressing." Li Ji spoke to try to divert the somewhat depressing atmosphere at the scene. Crisis is crisis. Where there is crisis, there is opportunity. We just anticipated the worst outcome. But this does not mean that we have to accept this worst outcome unconditionally. After all, we still have to make various efforts. This is a complete plan. In addition to catching the Japanese rat, Harry, you also have to prepare a crisis public relations. As long as it is handled properly, this is even a very good opportunity. Li Ji patted the shoulders of the two and said with a smile. While the few people were chatting, Li Ji's tablet received a new message. The message has been conveyed to Logan, and Logan asked to meet as soon as possible. This is the news from the Innocence Society, which was forwarded by Zheng Chumi in New York. It seems that Wolverine still cares about whether the child is his. Li Ji raised the tablet in his hand. I'll go talk to him. Maybe he'll want to save the child. And we have to face Logan's old lover, Mariko Yashida, in Japan. It would be best if Logan could help to entangle that woman. Eiji Yasuda needs her to kill me. The meeting with Wolverine Logan was arranged by the Innocence Society in the izakaya that Li Ji and Peter had visited last time. Logan's face didn't look very good, and his frowning brows seemed to be very worried. Before Li Ji arrived, he had already finished 3 500 ml bottles of Daijo gin. Although the alcohol content of this wine is only more than 20 degrees, it is not considered a strong liquor. But it is rare to see people like Logan who drink sake like water. Don't you eat something before drinking? Drinking on an empty stomach is not good for the stomach. When Li Ji came to the izakaya, he found Logan who was drinking heavily, and sat next to him without much greeting. "Give me some grilled chicken skewers and a grilled octopus leg." Li Ji ordered what he wanted to eat to the owner of the izakaya without hesitation. This izakaya is owned by the Pure Society. Today, for the meeting between Li Ji and Logan, a sign was hung outside that it was temporarily closed. So there were only Li Ji and Logan in the izakaya. Oh, there was also a boss and chef in charge of reception, who was also a member of the Pure Society. When the boss of the izakaya heard Li Ji ordering dishes, he bowed slightly to him and went to the kitchen to prepare. This was also Li Ji's way of getting rid of the boss. Is the news you passed on true? Logan had no desire to greet Li Ji, and went straight to the point. My son? I don't remember having a son. Really, Logan? Li Ji took a small wine glass from the bar of the izakaya, picked up Logan's sake and poured himself a glass. Don't you know the woman named Mariko Yashida? After taking a sip of Daijo gin, Li Ji took a breath and felt the dense and sweet taste and aftertaste of the sake. Speaking of Mariko, Logan frowned a little deeper. His relationship with Mariko is not the kind that everyone in the world knows about. Moreover, it has been more than 10 years since he last came to Japan, and the story with Mariko also happened more than 10 years ago. Now that Nightcrawler has revealed that he has a relationship with Mariko, what he said is very likely to be true. I have seen that child. Li Ji stopped after drinking a glass of sake. He is not a drinker, and he prefers to keep a clear mind. Getting drunk is not a good idea. There are many mutants with self-healing abilities in this world, but it is almost impossible to find a second one as strong as you. Even Dr. Hank and Professor Charles are amazed at your recovery ability. Li Ji pointed to Wolverine's muscles. No matter how badly you are injured, you can recover quickly. This is not an ordinary skill. So when I saw that child, I immediately thought of you. Logan asked after taking another sip of sake. What did you see? Self-healing ability. Super strong self-healing ability. On par with you. Amazing. He cut off 4 of his fingers, cut them off at the root, and then healed quickly in less than 10 seconds. There was no sign of scars, and it didn't look like it was caused by the use of some kind of gene mutation drug, because there were no side effects. Li Ji recalled the boy's appearance that day and said, "And the boy is a yellow-white mixed blood. There are obvious signs of mixed blood between Orientals and Europeans. It's hard for me not to think of you. That's why I asked someone to tell you this news." Logan's eyes flashed with memories. He began to recall his experience in Japan. Thinking carefully, what Li Ji said might be true. He had been entangled with Mariko for quite a long time. Thinking of this, Logan's eyes were a little bright, but soon dimmed. Even if there is a child, so what? Mariko didn't tell him, so she must not want the child to meet him. To put it bluntly, Logan is now living like a tramp. If he hadn't managed to get a job as a history teacher among mutants, he would probably still be fighting underworld boxing in Canada. So Logan's performance changed from being a little happy at the beginning to being lonely very quickly. He took a deep breath and said, "Really? Thank you for telling me this news, at least it's worth a drink. This glass of wine is for you, thank you for bringing me a pretty good news." Li Ji saw Logan's performance and was a little surprised at first that he was too calm, as if he didn't care about the child. Then he drank a glass of wine with Logan, lowered his head and thought about it, and seemed to have thought of some problems. So he spoke again. "You don't care about that child? If he is really your son, there will be people who care about him, and I am not the only one. Do you think he cut his finger just to test how strong his recovery ability is? Or is he a masochist?" Li Ji used some questioning tone in his tone when talking to Logan. "Or do you think your genes can avoid pain when you are injured?" Hearing these words from Li Ji, Logan realized that maybe some things were not as simple as he thought. He had stopped drinking and began to listen carefully to Li Ji's words. Chapter 306, The Love and Hate Between Logan and the Yashida Family. From what I can see, that kid is not a masochist. He is also very afraid of pain. When his finger was cut off, he showed hesitation, fear and panic on his face. Li Ji said while holding up a half-empty glass. He shook the glass, which was still half full of sake, and the clear liquor swayed disorderly in the glass, forming small waves in the glass. And the person who ordered him to do this was Miss Mariko Yashida. "It seems that your child dared not disobey her orders at all, not at all. Miss Mariko is a bit ruthless, at least when the child cut off his finger and blood splattered, she did not show much mercy. Ms. Mariko treated the child more like a scientist treating a white mouse. I don't know if she is really the child's mother. It is because of this doubt that I must pass this message to you. I don't know what you did in Japan, but as a friend, I have fulfilled my obligations. Now the choice is yours, Logan. If you believe that the child is yours and need to rescue him, then just ask if you need any help. If you still think it is unnecessary, then just pretend that I have said nothing." After Li Ji finished this sentence, he drank the wine in the glass. At this moment, the owner of the izakaya brought up 2 small plates. They contained the chicken skewers and grilled octopus feet that Li Ji ordered. Logan fell silent, and now he was not just frowning. Now he has deep forehead wrinkles, the kind that can kill flies. Li Ji did not urge Logan to answer quickly. Instead, he began to concentrate on the food in front of him. Until he ate 3 chicken skewers and was about to eat the octopus legs, Logan finally spoke. His tone was a little confused. "If what you said is true, then no matter whether this child is related to me or not, I think I will rescue this child. From your description, this child is also a mutant. Mutants should not be locked up in laboratories as guinea pigs. He should receive a better education and make friends with children of the same age." Logan said, his tone gradually became firm. "So you are going to take him away?" Li Ji heard Logan's words, put down the octopus legs in his hand and said, "Yes, take him back to the mutant school. No mutant child should be a tool. Never." 3 steel claws made of adamantium metal silently penetrated the wooden board of the izakaya bar. This shows that Logan's heart is far from as calm as his tone shows. Wolverine Logan may be a little reckless and impulsive at times, and he doesn't care about the consequences and likes to drink. Although he has all kinds of shortcomings, it doesn't mean that his brain is not good. After Li Ji dragged out the story about his child, he already had a rough outline in his mind. Many things that he couldn't figure out before, he instantly understood at this moment. More than a decade ago, when Mariko's grandfather, Ichiro Yashida, found him, maybe that terrible woman began to arrange everything. At that time, Ichiro Yashida was suffering from advanced cancer, and he was already at the point of lingering on it in old age. But the old man didn't want to die, and he lived to put this hope on a mutant he knew, that is, Wolverine. Because earlier, in 1945, Ichiro Yashida was still an officer stationed on the main island of Toyo, responsible for guarding the prison near Nagasaki. At that time, Germany had been defeated, and only Toyo was still struggling to support the evil plan of the Axis. At that time, Captain America Steve Rogers had fallen into the ice and snow of the Arctic in order to kill the Red Skull and was frozen. At that time, everyone thought that Steve was dead, and the Howling Commandos led by him had completed the mission of the European battlefield and were sent to the Pacific battlefield by the US government. At that time, the battle with Hydra had caused the Howling Commandos to lose many soldiers and generals, including the captain and the Winter Soldier. Especially after the absence of Steve Rogers, the whole team lacked a backbone. The members of the Howling Commandos ran into the Japanese death squads in the Pacific battlefield. Those crazy people who were brainwashed by Bushido and Spirit. In the most tragic battle of Iwo Jima in the Pacific battlefield, the Howling Commandos were completely defeated, and Logan was captured. After a lot of twists and turns, he was imprisoned in Nagasaki prison. And Logan, who was imprisoned in Nagasaki, met Ichiro Yashida here. It was the summer of 1945, and the Manhattan Project had been successful. After a group of scientists including Einstein and Howard Stark confirmed it. The first atomic bomb of mankind went into actual combat, and the Hiroshima nuclear explosion shocked the world. As an Axis power in World War II, Japan was at the end of its rope, but it still resisted stubbornly. Ignoring the ultimatum issued by the Allies, the Japanese government announced a plan of 100 million people to die in battle. It wanted to use the entire main island of Japan as a battlefield. In order to promote the surrender process of Japan, the US government decided to drop the second atomic bomb on Nagasaki, urging Japan to speed up its unconditional surrender. When the B-29 Super Fortress bomber arrived over Nagasaki, any soldier who knew about the Hiroshima nuclear explosion understood what it meant. Death had descended on his own sky. At that time, the Japanese officers in the Nagasaki prison knew that there was nowhere to hide, and they all decided to commit suicide by seppuku. Only Ichiro Yashida opened the prison door at the last moment, allowing the prisoners imprisoned in the prison to escape, although it was all in vain. Of course, he also opened the door of the deep well dungeon where Logan was imprisoned, allowing Logan to escape. After doing all this, Ichiro Yashida was also ready to commit suicide for his country. But the fear of death made him hesitate to do it. In the end, Logan rescued him and threw him into the deep well dungeon to avoid the impact of the nuclear explosion. And it was because of this experience that Ichiro Yashida saw how terrible Logan was. Facing the high temperature and shock wave generated by the nuclear explosion, Logan could not be killed. He recovered like a monster in a few seconds. So when Ichiro Yashida faced a life and death crisis again, he remembered the former savior, and he wanted Logan to save him again. The method he prepared was simple and violent. He wanted to transfer Logan's self-healing factor into his body. In this way, he can eliminate cancer cells and even return to a young state. Chapter 307, Wolverine in Rage. Ichiro Yashida didn't want to die, decades ago, and decades later. He deceived Logan to come to Japan on the pretext that he was dying and wanted to see Logan again. Logan had lost many memories at that time, and he had been struggling to find out who he was. Hearing that someone who had an intersection with him decades ago was looking for him, he came to Japan with great interest. Ichiro Yashida made his request to Logan directly, and this request was naturally rejected by Logan. But this was also within Ichiro Yashida's expectations. After being rejected by Logan, Ichiro Yashida spoke out another request. I am eager to live to protect my granddaughter Mariko. I don't want her to be hurt. He said so at the time. Whether it is the gang or the Japanese government, it will be bad for her. Even her father is not trustworthy. Because I will pass the entire Yashida group to her. Ichiro Yashida grabbed Logan's hand and said weakly. Not long after saying this, Ichiro Yashida fell into coma and was declared dead by the doctor after a period of rescue. Finally, Logan agreed to his other request, which was to protect Mariko Yashida. The woman who looked gentle as water and perfectly interpreted Yamato Natashiko. In the process of protecting Mariko, Logan fell into Mariko's gentle trap and fell in love with this woman. From Mariko's mouth, Logan knew everything. Her father, Shinjin Yashida, wanted to kill her in order to gain the leadership of the Yashida group. And her grandfather, Ichiro Yashida, did not die, but hid. He still did not give up the plan to seize Logan's self-healing factor. In order to protect Mariko, Logan fell into a bitter battle. Both Shinjin and Ichiro used a lot of manpower and material resources to deal with him. Logan once took Mariko to hide near Nagoya City, the rural area he had been to before. There he and Mariko spent the happiest months of their lives. It was also there that Logan completely fell. For Mariko, he got rid of Shinjin Yashida, and then found the hiding place of Ichiro Yashida and got rid of him together. But Wolverine, who did all this, did not get the life he expected. Once, Yashida Mariko spoke sweet words to him, promising to run away with Logan after dealing with the East Asian affairs. Completely abandon the Yashida group, and love whoever you want at that time. But when Logan dealt with all the stumbling blocks before Mariko took over, this woman seized the power of the entire group at lightning speed. She had already planted a large number of her own confidants in the group, just waiting for Logan to eliminate the biggest obstacle for her, so that she could make a final effort to completely integrate the Yashida group. After integrating the Yashida group, the nature of this woman began to slowly reveal itself. As a direct descendant of the Yashida family, she also has the same blood as her ancestors, sinister and fierce. All the gentleness like water is her self-protection prudence, and all the affectionate words are traps that are spoken after calculation and repeated consideration. Maybe Mariko did fall in love with Logan at a certain moment, but as she said, she loves Logan, but she loves herself more. She began to distance herself from Logan, and showed her fierce side in front of him without caring. Logan was deceived, and Langwan's heart was broken. In the end, he decided to stay away from Japan and return to his hometown in Canada, and continue his semi-wandering life, thinking that everything that happened in Japan was just a small episode in his life, and Mariko was just a passerby. But when Logan got the news from Lee Ji, he understood that Mariko was more terrible and scheming than he had imagined. This woman was very smart, smarter than her father and grandfather. From a delicate female perspective, she understood Logan's extraordinariness when they first met. Especially when Logan protected her again and again, she understood how powerful this man was. She understood that such a man could not be easily eliminated. The plan of her father and grandfather was nothing but a pipe dream. Mariko disguised herself as a bird with broken wings to deceive Logan's sympathy. In fact, she had been pretending like this for many years before she came to power. She not only deceived Logan, but also deceived her father and grandfather. Two men with traditional Oriental male chauvinism looked down on her. Is Logan's self-healing factor eye-catching, or even tempting? Answer: yes. No one can resist the temptation of longevity and eternal health. But Mariko keenly perceived that for Logan, any hard way would cause a violent backlash from this strong man. Mariko also hoped to obtain the self-healing gene, not in the simple and crude way of her grandfather. In Mariko's view, the self-healing gene has a wider range of uses. So Mariko used the unique advantages of women and seduced Logan. She made Logan love her madly, not just to control Logan and let him help clear obstacles. More importantly, she needed Logan's blood gene. She wanted to have Logan's child. And when she was pregnant with Logan's child, Logan also cleared all obstacles for her. The Queen of the Eastern Kanto began to rise. In order to prevent Logan from knowing that she was pregnant, Mariko began to alienate Logan, not only being cold to him, but also began to not hide her true colors in front of him. This made Logan increasingly frustrated, and he finally left Toyo. All of this was in Mariko's plan. She couldn't let Logan know that she had a child. Because Mariko knew very well how much damage a violent Wolverine could cause. Those bloody killings are still vivid in her mind. So when Logan appeared near Nagoya, she immediately went to his house. After a long entanglement with Wolverine and verbal provocation, the stimulated Logan prepared to go to Toyo again. Originally, everything was fine. But at the moment of boarding, Logan was left behind by a postcard passed by Lee Ji. And Logan now understands everything. All of this is probably in Mariko's calculation. She wants the self-healing gene, but she doesn't want to confront the powerful Wolverine head-on. She chose a tortuous and circuitous path, not hesitating to spend more than 10 years waiting for her and Logan's child to grow up, big enough to start the ability, big enough to start various experiments. Logan, who understood the cause and effect, was furious. It was a scam that lasted for more than 10 years. A heartbroken Wolverine, his anger is enough to create a huge wave in the East. Chapter 308 Cruel Wolf Cub Training. Please vote, recommend, monthly, subscribe. Far away in Tokyo, Mariko Yashida didn't know that things didn't go according to her plan. Logan didn't board the flight to New York, but stopped in Osaka. And he has figured out the cause and effect of everything. Now Mariko is busy training her and Logan's child, the boy named Dakin. She spent so much effort and went through so much trouble to leave Logan's bloodline. It's not just raising a child for fun. This child must show his value. At least he must show that his value is not inferior to his father. Only in this way can Mariko's plan, which has lasted for more than 10 years, show its due value. Like most mutants, Dakin did not show any difference from ordinary people when he was born, but this does not mean that he is an ordinary boy. An important part of mutant research, the X gene is recessive in the human body most of the time. Except for the X gene becoming stronger and stronger due to aging, thus turning into a dominant gene. Another more extreme way to stimulate the mutant X gene is to let the mutant with the recessive gene experience extreme joy or sorrow or various extreme stimulations. Use extraordinary means to stimulate the mutation and rapid growth of the X gene. In history, there are not many mutants who have grown their X gene abilities in this way, because most mutants can hardly survive this experiment. Among the mutants who have survived this unconventional experiment, the most famous one is Magneto. The leader of the Brotherhood of Mutants and the #1 arrest target of SHIELD. Magneto, who goes by the alias Eric, first awakened his power in the Jewish concentration camp. When his parents were sent to be massacred, he was only 10 years old and stimulated terrible power, twisting an entire iron door, showing his extraordinary strength. In the mutant school, Dr. Hank and Professor Charles reached a consensus. The more powerful the mutant, the older he will be when he awakens. Because the powerful mutant ability itself is also a huge burden on the body, only when the body gradually matures and has the ability to match the mutant, the X gene will naturally awaken. This is a self-protection mechanism of the X gene in the human body. Dakin's genetic ability is undoubtedly very, very powerful. This power is not reflected in the extraordinary destructive power, but in the super recovery ability like his father Wolverine. You have to know that Logan is a man who survived the nuclear explosion in Nagasaki, and even an atomic bomb cannot kill him. Dakin's ability awakened when he was 12 years old. Logically, his powerful ability should not be fully awakened at such a young age. However, if you have a deep understanding of Dakin's life, everyone will understand the necessity of his awakening this ability. Because as the son of Mariko, he lives on the edge of life and death every day. And the person who puts this pressure on him comes from his mother, the woman without warmth, Mariko Yashida. And today's training is like his daily routine fighting with 20 black ninjas raised by the family. It is not a very fair fight. In the battle, Dakin can only cut a black bandage on his opponent, but he is not allowed to really hurt his opponent. If he really hurts his opponent, then he will face cruel punishment. The black ninjas who were fighting him did not need to worry about anything and could use all means of attack, whether it was cutting off hands and feet or cutting off Dakin's trachea. No one would stop and no one would leave the field until Dakin had slashed all 20 black scarves. And just like every training session like this, Yashida Mariko would sit on the side of the martial arts field and watch Dakin's training. Among the black ninjas who were training with Dakin today, 5 were wearing the elf-type power armor produced by the Osborn Group. This put Dakin, who had always been at a disadvantage in the battle, even more at a disadvantage in today's combat training. The 20 black ninjas were equipped with samurai swords and shurikens. But Dakin could only fight with his bare hands. Perhaps the term bare hands was not used properly. Dakin still had weapons, and the sharp claws like his father stretched out from the gaps in his fists. It was a bit painful when the claws stretched out and pierced the flesh, which made Dakin grin. He still didn't like pain. No matter how long it had passed, or how many times he had been injured, he just couldn't get used to enduring pain. The difference between his father Logan's claws was that his claws were bone claws instead of adamantium like Wolverine's, and he only had 2 claws instead of 3. Let's get started, Mariko said lightly on the sidelines. Under Mariko's order, 20 black ninjas launched an offensive against Dakin. The black ninjas raised by the Yashida family were the most traditional ninjas, not the ninjas that had changed from the 2K. As traditional ninjas, the black ninjas had their own way of attacking. More than 20 shuriken flew towards Dakin at lightning speed. The shuriken made a hissing sound when they cut through the air. Dakin waved his bone claws to block the flying shuriken for himself. But because the shuriken were flying at different angles, even though his reaction speed was extremely fast, 2 shurikens still broke through his defense and stabbed into his thigh fiercely. The sharp shuriken pierced through the skin and entered the inner thigh. The sharp blade quickly cut off the muscle fibers of the quadriceps femoris in the leg, causing very serious laceration injuries. At the same time, the other shuriken attacked a more critical part. That was the inner thigh near the base of the thigh. The shuriken pierced the aorta in the leg. This is the location of the highest blood pressure in the human blood vessels. At the moment the shuriken pierced the blood vessels, Dakin's blood spurted out uncontrollably like a faucet with the valve removed. The farthest blood splashed 10 meters away. The surging blood instantly dyed the floor red, and a blood pit formed under Dakin's feet. The huge pain made Dakin stagger, and he endured the pain and pulled out 2 shuriken. His self-healing ability quickly repaired the terrible wound for him. Mariko, who was sitting on the sidelines, did not show much sympathy. She just watched Dakin's performance quietly. It was like a rancher choosing a suitable sheepdog. And Dakin's current performance was obviously not a qualified sheepdog. Chapter 309 Howling Wolf Cub. The injured Dakin groaned in his throat and made a loud sound. It was like the low roar of a wounded beast. But the black ninjas would not have any mercy on him because of this. Because their duty was to completely defeat Dakin, stimulate all his potential, and push him to the limit between life and death. Without giving Dakin more time to breathe, the moment he just drew the shuriken, several special smoke bombs were thrown in the direction of Dakin. Fighting in the smoke is one of the necessary tasks for ninjas. Without relying on the assistance of technological equipment such as far-infrared or thermal imaging, the way ninjas fight in the smoke relies on a mysterious spiritual sense. To explain it in a more understandable way, that is, relying on the perception of ki. In East Asian culture, any living organism has ki, more or less. In the practice of ninjas, closing the 5 senses and focusing on the cultivation of the 6th sense of ki is an important task. This allows them to discover the enemy when they cannot use technological equipment or other reconnaissance methods. The smoke bombs that the Yasuda group equipped them with were also specially made. They were greatly improved from the production methods handed down from ancient times. This improved smoke bomb can not only simply blind the eyes, but also effectively block a series of scientific and technological means of detection such as thermal imaging and infrared detection. In this kind of smoke, if you can't perceive the air to a certain extent, you will become a blind person in the smoke and can't see the enemy at all. Even if you have modern equipment, it won't work. If you only rely on equipment and don't have any special abilities or extraordinary levels, when you find your enemy, I'm afraid you have been stabbed to death by their sharp short knives. The smoke bomb spreads very quickly. In less than 2 seconds, it has filled the area around Dakin, creating a large fog area, and the dense smoke completely obscures the sight. In addition to vision, Dakin can only rely on his hearing and his unskilled perception of air. On the left, Dakin's subconscious told him that another enemy on his left was attacking him with a long knife. He twisted his body and used his bone claws to attack the left direction. The bone claws swung at a very fast speed, and the 2 claws split 2 smoke lines in the places they passed. The bone claws accurately cut a sharp samurai sword, making a crisp metal knocking sound. Dakin's bone claws showed unusual sharpness and strength, although his claws were not made of adamantium like his father's. But in front of these sharp bone claws, the metal samurai sword was not much stronger than paper. Dakin's claws cut the samurai sword without any hindrance. Bones in the human body are a relatively special tissue. Every time a bone is injured and broken, it will become stronger and harder in the next repair process. Dakin, who has a super recovery ability, has a bone claw that is unimaginably strong and sharp. It becomes stronger after being broken and repaired again and again. God knows how many times his powerful bone claws have been broken, perhaps thousands of times, or even tens of thousands of times. Every time the bone claw is strengthened, it is accompanied by the pain of the bone claw breaking. Dakin, who attacked the long sword, was not happy at all, because he was keenly aware that the samurai sword was just a cover, and no ninja really held it. Yes, this is a trick commonly used by ninjas, the substitute technique in ninjutsu. The best strategy of making a feint to the east and attacking in the west. Dakin already knew that he had been fooled, but it was too late to understand it at this time. In the process of fighting, any distraction is fatal. At the moment of attack, Dakin had already sold his back. This is a huge flaw. In this battle without teammates, there are enemies on all sides. Exposing your back is undoubtedly an extremely stupid mistake. It did not exceed Dakin's expectations. Just this moment of distraction, several samurai swords have already chopped towards him, cutting through the air and thick fog, with solemnity and tranquility. The swordsmanship of ninjas is not the swordsmanship of samurai. They prefer silent fighting. The swordsmanship of ninjas has well implemented the characteristics of ninjas. Come silently and harvest lives. Then leave silently, leaving no trace. The silent samurai swords came silently, without alarming anyone. The sharp blade instantly cut off a large piece of flesh before Dakin could turn around to defend himself. The first samurai sword cut off the entire trapezius muscle on Dakin's left back, and the second samurai sword left a wound of more than 7 inches on the right latissimus dorsi, directly cutting off all the muscle fibers of the right latissimus dorsi. The third sword went towards Dakin's waist and penetrated into his body near the ribs on the side. The person using the sword was very skilled, and his technique was like that of a skilled surgeon. The blade perfectly avoided all the hard bone parts. It was inserted into Dakin's side abdomen from the gap between the ribs. The tip of the knife accurately pierced the left kidney. With a subsequent dragging action, the blade drew a straight line in Dakin's body, and his kidney had been completely cut in two. Other organs near the kidney, such as the stomach, spleen and other organs, were severely cut. Before putting the knife away, the owner of the knife also made a stirring action inside Dakin's body. His internal organs were smashed into pulp. Wow! Dakin spat out a mouthful of blood from his mouth because of the shattered internal organs and the damage to his stomach. A large amount of internal organ fragments and internal bleeding poured into his gastrointestinal tract, causing severe pain and accompanied by nausea and vomiting. In the blood he spit out, there were also a lot of internal organ fragments. It was difficult to tell which were his kidneys and which were his spleen. Dakin endured the deadly pain and finally turned around to resist the subsequent samurai swords that attacked him. It is worth mentioning that Dakin's recovery speed after being attacked by samurai swords does not seem to be so fast. It seems that these samurai swords have the ability to suppress his self-healing factor. When the smoke dissipated, Dakin finally cut through 20 black scarves and ended today's training. He was already scarred and his internal organs were almost completely damaged. The muscle group on his back was cut off by nearly half, revealing his white skeleton. The legs were not much better, the left foot was cut off in half, and the right arm was twisted at a strange angle, which looked like a serious fracture. Blood was all over the ground of the training ground, and the strong smell of blood gave people the illusion of being in a slaughterhouse. However, Dakin's opponents were unscathed, only the black scarf tied around their chests was cut. There was no emotion in their eyes when they looked at Dakin. No pity. No sympathy. The colleagues did not laugh or feel sad. This was a group of perfectly trained ninjas who would never have their own emotions when performing tasks. After this cruel training was over, Mariko stood up and said softly in the direction of Dakin, "Let him get treatment." After saying this, she left. Only Dakin was left with his head down, not daring to let anyone see his expression and eyes. Because he did not dare to let anyone see the emotions in his eyes, the terrible and violent emotions that wanted to destroy everything. Chapter 310 The Hunter and the Fox. Osaka, Osborne Group, in the building of the Toyo branch. It seems that you have done a good job in the past 6 months, Chairman Yasuda. Harry praised Yasuda Ag in the office. Leiji, who was sitting on the sofa next to him, had a sour face and didn't want to pay attention to Chairman Yasuda. The inspection team from New York has completed the inventory of the Toyo branch. All the accounts show how diligent Chairman Yasuda has been in the more than half a year since Harry took over. The company's sales in all aspects have increased significantly compared to when Mr. Norman Osborn was alive. Especially the sales of weapons and equipment, because the sales channels that originally belonged to Stark Industries were merged. So in the first quarter financial report of the entire Osborne Group in April this year, the company's global profit increased by nearly 25% year-on-year compared with the previous fiscal year. For a company as big as the Osborne Group, this kind of financial report is simply a carnival party. So when the first financial report came out in April, the entire Wall Street stock market went crazy. The stock of Osborne Group continued to break new highs, driving all investors crazy. In the move of Stark Industries to launch the global weapons manufacturing industry, Harry, who had reached a secret deal with Tony, became the biggest winner. Because of the merger of Stark Group's sales channels, Osborne Group got the biggest piece of cake after Stark Group delisted. Of course, because the market left after Stark Group's withdrawal was too huge, even too big for Osborne Group to take it all. So there are still many other companies following up and trying to get some food behind Osborne Group. Among the global branch revenues of Osborne Group, the growth of the Oriental branch is the fastest. It has increased by almost 35% year-on-year. The growth rate is the highest among all global branches, making it the most profitable overseas branch except for the head office. In addition to the fact that many relatively poor Southeast Asian countries have also begun to purchase Osborne Group's equipment, which seems a bit unexpected, the rest of the entire Oriental branch is thriving. It has already dethroned the European branch that has been ranked first overseas for many years. After the headquarters audited and confirmed that there were no problems with the accounts of the Toyo branch, Harry naturally wanted to show his intimacy. Harry held Eiji Yasuda's hand and said to him encouragingly, "In the past 6 months, you have managed the Toyo branch in an orderly manner, and even beat the European branch in terms of financial income. You should know, Chairman Yasuda, the audit of the Toyo branch must be carried out. Because the growth of Toyo's profits is a bit too amazing." Harry said to Chairman Yasuda in a tone that hoped you could understand me. "I understand your difficulties, Mr. Harry, and it is necessary to be impartial. You also need to explain to the board of directors and shareholders. I understand this very well." Eiji Yasuda nodded respectfully, without any complacency. Harry's explanation for why the audit was made sense. As the leader of a newly succeeded business empire, the most basic acumen is still needed. Eiji Yasuda may have some contempt for Harry in his heart, but he doesn't regard Harry as a retard. False financial statements are what any business manager is afraid of. Don't think that only losses will cause the board of directors to audit. If a company has a high profit fluctuation, and the growth rate is far beyond a historical average, then this situation will also attract the attention of the company, especially the board of directors and shareholders. Because using false good news to deceive investors and trap their money is a common method used by some companies. Sometimes, when the company actually suffers losses and lacks working capital, many companies will take risks to conceal the losses in this way and get money from the market to fill the hole. If you are lucky, you just lack a working capital, and as long as the funds are in place, you can turn losses into profits. If you are unlucky, the money you get will not fill the hole, and the company will only be deeply mired in debt. In the end, the bubble is punctured, the company goes bankrupt, and investors lose all their money. For the Osborne Group, which has branches all over the world, when evaluating the potential level of a branch, it often relies on annual financial reports. The financial report reflects the company's development potential, and at the same time, a priority level is selected internally. The branch with the highest development potential usually receives more resources. It can also pass various development proposals relatively smoothly. The funds involved in such resource investment and development proposals are often as high as billions of dollars, and some larger projects even have amounts of tens of billions of dollars. So Harry explained the auditing problem to Eiji Yasuda in this way, and Eiji Yasuda fully understood the problem that Harry was worried about. This is thanks to the hard work of all colleagues in the past year. The company's performance is inseparable from their efforts. Eiji Yasuda showed the demeanor of a good boss. Seeing Yasuda's performance, Harry wanted to curse in his heart, but he still smiled on the surface. Chairman Yasuda is right. Because the profit income of the Toyo branch in the first quarter increased abnormally. So I decided to give all employees of the Toyo branch 3 months' salary as an encouragement at the end of April. Harry said very generously. Especially Chairman Yasuda, you and your capable assistants, including several leaders of the legal department and the import and export department, will be rewarded with half a year's salary each. Thank you very much, this is what we should do. I am a little ashamed of your generosity. Yasuda Eiji was very dramatic, he acted very timid, like a good employee who worked hard for this company. Harry showed his generosity with a smile, while Lee Ji could express his inner thoughts without any scruples, just showing a stinky face that could freeze people to death. When Yasuda Eiji left the office, he accidentally glanced at Lee Ji, although only for a moment. But his eyes were full of contempt, and the way he looked at Lee Ji was like looking at a corpse. Although Lee Ji did not say anything today, his face had caused Yasuda Eiji serious displeasure. My face is almost frozen. Harry drooped his face only after Yasuda Eiji left completely. Do I have to do this? I think you did a good job. It's really good to have a girlfriend from Broadway. Your acting is very good. I can't see any flaws. Leiji gave Harry a thumbs up. Let Eiji Yasuda let down his guard first. Only when he relaxes will we have the chance to take action. Routine and anti-routine, acting against acting. Two young hunters have to deal with a cunning old fox. The roles have been played and the drama is about to begin. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311, Specious Ideas. Are you sure this will work for Yasuda? Deal with him this way. Harry was still a little uneasy about Leiji's plan. All the accounts and foundations are fine. Even the best salesmen and accountants in the company can't find any problems. It will work. Leiji shrugged and said to Harry, "This person actually doesn't care about you and me from the bottom of his heart. For Eiji Yasuda, we are too young." A common mistake made by the elderly is that they think young people are inexperienced and often do things recklessly. They need to fall a few times and experience the baptism of time before they can grow up. They often think that those opponents who can be compared with them are about the same age as them, because they grew up from the experience I just mentioned. Human beings are strange creatures. They often have an inexplicable sense of superiority. Although most people don't show it on the surface, they have a weird personality from the root. That is, what I can't do, others can't do it either. Leiji leaned back on the sofa, adjusted his sitting posture and continued to talk to Harry. And most people stubbornly believe that they have reached the level after going through hardships, and there is no reason for others to easily overcome those obstacles. This is especially true for those who have achieved success and are worth a lot of money. They give speeches everywhere to lobby for their own way of success, but Leiji shook his head and pouted. "Well, we don't comment on the behavior of business tycoons. I can only say that Yasuda Eiji is just one of these ordinary businessmen, so the methods that work against those businessmen will also work against him." Leiji had a smile on his face and winked at Harry. Harry, who had been smirking at Yasuda Eiji just now, smiled now. "Oh, by the way, what did you say about Wolverine?" Harry suddenly remembered this matter, how to deal with a boy who is suspected to be Logan's child. "I have told Logan everything I know. He is very angry, although he is a little restrained, but I can see it." Hearing such a question, Leiji waved his hand at Harry and talked about Logan's situation. "I'm afraid he will go to the Yasuda group and kill people, so I told him not to be impulsive for the time being. You know, if he kills people without scruples in Japan, especially in downtown Tokyo, he will definitely be listed as a terrorist on the global wanted list. At that time, even Professor Charles can't protect him. In addition to being able to hire a good lawyer for him." Leiji dragged his chin with one hand and scraped it with his index finger. Now his chin has begun to have heavier roots of beard, not the soft hair that grows around the mouth of adolescent boys, but the hard beard that a real man begins to grow. "So I think we can act together. He doesn't need to kill people in Tokyo. If he wants to take revenge or do other similar things, he should make the action more secretive, at least before taking his son away from Japan safely." "So you mean to ask him to be an external aide? To deal with the Yasuda group?" Harry walked to the refrigerator next to the office and took 2 bottles of Coke, and threw one to Leiji. "Not an external aide, we are helping each other." Leiji took the Coke and took a big sip. The audit of the New York headquarters was over, and the Toyo branch did not find any problems. This relieved the Toyo employees who had been speculating. And Harry's final announcement of a 2-month salary bonus for all employees made the entire Toyo branch employees fall into great excitement. Surpassing the European branch and becoming the highest marketing branch in the world, this is their reward. Harry did not let the team from New York return to New York immediately, because everything at present is just a part of the plan. All this is just to make Eiji Yasuda relax his vigilance and make him mistakenly believe that the investigation of him, Chairman Yasuda, is just a young man's move to establish his authority. In Kyoto's Sakura Ryotei, this high-end restaurant is Chairman Yasuda's favorite, because the dishes cooked by the chef of the restaurant are very suitable for his appetite. And the scenery overlooking the Kinkokuji Temple is also one of the things he likes here. The status of Kinkokuji Temple in the history of the East is different from that of ordinary temples. This was once the favorite place of the Ashikaga shogun during the Ashikaga shogunate. Even for a long time, 3 generations of Ashikaga shoguns worked in Kinkokuji Temple and handled government affairs throughout the East. After the Ashikaga shoguns, including Oda Nobunaga and the Tokugawa shogunate, they all left their footprints in Kinkokuji Temple. This small temple was the center of Oriental politics for quite a long time. This is a hidden government hall in the pastoral scenery, as an Oriental poet commented. It is also for this reason that Eiji Yasuda likes it very much. Being close to Kinkokuji Temple, whose entire wall is decorated with luxurious gold foil, gives Eiji Yasuda a sense of power, which makes him feel that he is on an equal footing with successive generals in the East. It seems that we worried too much. The team from New York didn't find anything. The man who poured wine for Eiji Yasuda was the bald middle-aged man who was in charge of the import and export department. To be honest, when the team of more than 100 people first came to Japan, I was really scared. I was really afraid that they would find out something. If they found out anything, I might have to go to jail. The man with a simple face was the one who took action under Chairman Yasuda. The thunder was loud but the rain was small. The level of the New York headquarters is just so-so. We handled it so cleanly from beginning to end. Even the world's top financial team would not find any deviations. The sharp-looking man said with some disdain. Well, don't say that. Yasuda Eiji interrupted the discussion of several people and spoke after a while. I roughly understand why Mr. Harry did all this. The experienced chairman Yasuda Eiji took a sip of sake and said slowly. The other 3 listened to his lofty remarks. To establish authority. We were careless. Today I suddenly figured out some things. Yasuda said calmly. We underestimated Mr. Harry at the beginning and were not considerate enough in entertaining him, so we made him angry. He asked someone to check the accounts just to warn us and let us know who has the final say in this company. Chapter 312 Misguided Intentions. I found out some interesting things about the guy next to Mr. Harry, the guy named Jason. I didn't pay too much attention to him before. Speaking of Lee Ji, Chairman Yasuda could hardly hold back a hint of sneer on the corner of his mouth. Some things I just found out recently, that guy named Jason, in addition to being Mr. Harry's classmate, is also a chef. And the reason why he first got in touch with Mr. Harry was because he was a good cook. And now during this time in Japan, he is also responsible for Mr. Harry's diet. Hearing Yasuda Eiji say this, the 3 people present were stunned at first, and then burst into laughter. So the real identity of his personal consultant is actually a personal chef, right? It's ridiculous, haha. The sharp-looking man laughed at Lee Ji without any scruples. Yes, that's why I said we were a little neglectful of Mr. Harry. Seeing that the 3 people had almost laughed, Yasuda Eiji raised his hand and signaled the 3 people to be quiet. It can be seen from Mr. Harry's attitude towards him. Mr. Harry is a person who pays great attention to food. And we made a low-level mistake. Yasuda Eiji pointed around with his index finger. We arbitrarily did not ask Mr. Harry what he likes. I guess the Japanese dishes we provided to Mr. Harry these days are not to his taste. Yasuda Eiji said this, and the other 3 nodded in agreement. This made Mr. Harry feel that we did not respect him. And then we arranged for Miss Mariko to meet him without authorization, which aggravated his thoughts. Yasuda Eiji said this and took another sip of sake to moisten his throat. Our perhaps unintentional disrespect for Mr. Harry has hurt his sensitive heart. The words used by Yasuda Eiji in this paragraph are worth pondering. Of course, every young person has such moments. Especially as a young person who has just inherited his father's huge legacy. He needs prestige and respect from his subordinates. Any minor impoliteness may cause him displeasure. And our work in this regard is indeed a little lacking, which is also the reason why our communication with Mr. Harry is not smooth enough. Yasuda Eiji's analysis made everyone present not frequently. This analysis is very reasonable and makes perfect sense. So his personal consultant only needs a little incitement, or anything to arouse Mr. Harry's suspicion of us. For example, this time he asked the headquarters to audit our accounts as a proof. He wants to use this method to establish his prestige, and it is also a warning to us. This does not mean that he is really going to do anything to us. Don't forget, who is responsible for the continuous improvement of the performance of the Toyo branch over the years. After saying this, Yasuda Eiji inadvertently smiled, but quickly suppressed it. As a businessman, I think Mr. Harry should also understand the principle of doing business in business. Profit is the most important thing for a company. and those who can create profits for the company are the pillars. What we need to do now is to change our attitude towards Mr. Harry. Let him feel our respect for him. Yasuda Eiji looked at the Kinkokuji temple in the distance and said slowly. The hunter needs a hound that submits to him. Only in this way can he guarantee the benefits of every hunting. Any hound that dares to bare its teeth to the hunter and eats the prey without authorization will eventually become a dish on the hunter's table. And we need to show submission now, to let Mr. Harry know that his knocking has worked. We are still his obedient hounds, just like when Mr. Norman was in power. As long as we are respectful to him and can create profits for the company, then many things can continue. Smart hounds will never snatch food in front of hunters. We just need to be more hidden. East Asia is still our world. Yasuda Eiji finally said the last sentence with force. The other three people present bowed respectfully to Eiji Yasuda and answered loudly in Japanese, "Hi." As an old fox in the business world, Eiji Yasuda's analysis made a lot of sense. He figured out all the thoughts that a young man would have after taking power. Most of them can be applied to Harry. That's right, Harry Osborn, who had just taken power, was indeed conscientious and afraid of making mistakes and destroying the huge business empire left to him by his father. So when he was at the headquarters in the United States, he also used various means to win over the shareholders in each board of directors. In New York, Norman Osborn has been running the base for decades, and Harry has a natural advantage in this place. So under Lee Ji's advice, Harry showed a powerful rule that made people feel pressured. He suppressed all kinds of people who had intentions for his position. It was precisely because of this power that all branches around the world understood that Harry Osborn was not a character that could be easily manipulated. So when Harry summoned the New York team to check the accounts of Donggang, Eiji Yasuda and his men were a little panicked. However, Eiji Yasuda is not a leader who advocates power rule. In Asia, especially in the three East Asian countries of China, Japan and South Korea, whether it is politics or business, the means used here are different from the simple and crude methods in European and American culture. They are more delicate and more obscure. In most political and business operations, a silent tacit understanding and strong metaphorical communication method are circulated in this land. This is also the reason why Eiji Yasuda does not think much of Harry. In his opinion, simple and crude power can indeed shock some people, but it is too direct. It lacks some artistic means that a ruler should have. Under Lee Ji's suggestion, the inventory carried out by Harry was a relatively successful metaphor in Eiji Yasuda's opinion. In East Asian countries, the confrontation between power is often obscure. If there is a straightforward confrontation like in European and American culture, it often means that things have entered a situation of no end. Harry first made himself uneasy by checking the accounts. After the audit, he rewarded the entire company. This skillful knocking technique is like what a leader familiar with East Asian culture would do. This made Yasuda Eiji no longer look down on Harry Osborn, but at the same time he relaxed his guard. Because Harry did not hold on to those suspicious purchase lists, especially those from Vietnam, the Philippines and other countries. Instead, he focused on the destination and legality of the source of all the money. This made Yasuda Eiji misunderstand Harry's intentions. And this kind of wrong guidance is exactly what Lee Ji hoped to achieve in his plan. Chapter 313 Obscure Communication. Eiji Yasuda is an ambitious man. But he is also a very smart man. Because of his ambition, he was able to overcome all obstacles in the cruel workplace jungle and become the leader of the Osborn Group in the East and Asia. In the bloody fight along the way, the naked ambition of the desire for power was the driving force for his progress. And because of his intelligence, he knew when to advance and when to retreat. He knew very well that there were some things he could get and some things he could not touch. Eiji Yasuda knew that the highest achievement of his life could only stop here, to be the Asian leader of a supergroup. He who knows others is wise, and he who knows himself is clear. As a state-level leader of one of the two largest companies in the world, Eiji Yasuda is very satisfied with the power he has now. As for taking the next step up, don't be silly. Unless he can become the chairman of the board of directors of the company, he has no room for advancement. And becoming the chairman of the board of directors is impossible. Norman Osborn holds 51% of the shares of the Osborn Group, and he has absolute power over the company's life and death. Harry inherited this legacy. As long as he does not waste the property left by his father, he will have absolute control over the Osborn Group. So no matter how much Eiji Yasuda dislikes or despises Harry, he still has to bow to Harry Osborn. As long as he is still prepared to work in this group. Staying in the Osborne group is a must for Eiji Yasuda. Only here can he experience the beauty of power. So he knows very well what attitude he should show at what time. Since Mr. Harry Osborn wants him to give in now, he can be more obedient. After all, Mr. Harry can't stay in Japan forever. As long as Harry leaves, he still has the final say in Japan. Thinking of this, Eiji Yasuda's eyes can't help but reveal a smug look. Since Chairman Yasuda has already thought of how to deal with Mr. Harry. Then about the consultants around him. The sharp man slowly approached Eiji Yasuda and asked in a low voice about how to deal with Lee Ji. Is it to let him go, or to kill him according to the previous plan? Hearing such an inquiry, Yasuda Eiji hesitated for a moment before answering. Let's kill him. He has always had a great influence on Mr. Harry. Especially since he has such a good relationship with Mr. Harry and they are of similar age. He has a prejudice against us. That Jason doesn't understand what kind of decision a correct businessman should make. He will only affect Mr. Harry's future development. Yasuda Eiji said in a tone that was completely for Harry's consideration. In fact, he knew very well in his heart that the reason why he wanted to get rid of Lee Ji was very simple. The first was Lee Ji's disrespect for him. That naked disrespect was simply a provocation. Even the Prime Minister of Japan didn't dare to talk to him like that. This made him resentful. The second was the cooperation with Mariko. Lee Ji was an obstacle. Although it was not clear what the reason was, he had been preventing the cooperation between the two groups. The cooperation with the Yasuda group was profitable, especially for Yasuda Eiji. It was a big business. It was a big business that he had to promote. Only when this business was settled, his position in Japan would be more stable. Anyone who stands in the way must be eliminated, and Lee Ji, this stubborn stone, must be broken and thrown into the Seto Inland Sea. After the New York team checked all the things of the Dongayang branch, they did not return to New York immediately. Instead, Harry gave them a 4-day paid vacation so that they could travel in Dongayang for a while. As a reward for crossing the Pacific Ocean to Dongayang and starting work as soon as they got off the plane. This made everyone very excited. It is the wish of most people to be able to receive a good salary when they are not working. Not to mention, the company also provides everyone with a 4-day subsidy for traveling in Dongayang. This makes most employees who have to be busy for a whole year feel like Christmas. The day after Yasuda Eiji asked Harry how to deal with him, Harry felt that everything around him had changed. It was not a huge change that people could immediately notice, but a more subtle and slight change. Like the spring rain moistening things silently. Nothing in Dongayang has actually changed. Those people are still respectful to him as always, from the beginning. But unlike the beginning, everything here makes him feel comfortable. When he needs it, there is always a cup of coffee at the right temperature. The angle of the boat to him is not the kind of Japanese-style etiquette that makes people feel cramped, but rather a little casual, but makes people feel relaxed. Even the female employees near his office are no longer dressed in Japanese-style workplace style, but more inclined to the New York style that Harry is familiar with. All these changes are so subtle that they are difficult to detect, but they can subtly change a person's perception of a place. It's crazy, Jason Lee. It's crazy. Harry, who just walked into his office, shouted Lee Ji's full name in an unbelievable tone. And Peter Parker, who followed behind him, also half opened his mouth in surprise, and kept muttering unbelievable, unbelievable. Before you finish telling me your crazy experience, let me finish this minesweeper first. I'm about to win. Lee Ji was using the built-in minigame on his computer to kill time. As soon as he finished this sentence, his mouse clicked on a mine. The game ended directly. Damn, I almost won. Lee Ji said in a mumbling tone. To hell with your minesweeper, Jason. You don't know what Harry and I encountered today. Peter, who had just recovered from his shock, said in a surprised tone. Did you see Gwen and Mary Jane dating, and then found out that they were true love, and your girlfriends dumped both of you? Lee Ji looked at the two of them in a very serious tone and with a questioning expression. Go to hell. Peter pushed Lee Ji directly and pushed him out of the computer chair. Shocking, Jason, you're right. I really don't understand East Asian culture, especially Oriental culture. Harry didn't feel like playing with Lee Ji with Peter, he said in a very serious tone. You should go to inspect the laboratory today. Tell me what you encountered. Lee Ji didn't have any idea about experiments, and he wouldn't understand it even if he went, so he didn't go with the two to inspect the very professional laboratory. The laboratory is not important, What's important is other things. When I went out, the car I took had donuts of my favorite flavor. The taste is exactly the same as in the United States. The Toyo employee who accompanied me for the inspection today has been providing me with my favorite brand of wet wipes for me to clean my hands. And this is not surprising. The more surprising part is still to come. Peter interrupted and continued Harry's words. I don't know how they judged that Harry and I felt thirsty. But every time we both felt a little thirsty and wanted a bottle of water, they would always prepare coffee at the right temperature before we asked. And it's the flavor we are most used to, my caramel macchiato and Harry's double espresso. And the meals provided during the tour are all our favorites. Pure American made, there's nothing we don't like. Listening to Peter's tone of voice, it feels a bit like sleepwalking, which makes people feel very dreamy. And the interior decoration of the car, the dress of the employees accompanying us have been changed according to the parts I like. As you said a few days ago, they even considered what brand of toilet paper I am used to using. Harry was still in an incredible state. But the most damning thing is that they even know what kind of fragrance I like. The Japanese female employee who accompanied me today, the fragrance she wears is my favorite. Oh my god. Is this the Japanese workplace culture? So you're done. Leiji found a chair and sat on it backwards so that he could rest his chin on the back of the chair. Yes, aren't you surprised? Peter and Harry were a little surprised at Leiji's calmness. Well, okay. Actually, I am surprised. Leiji made a surprised expression, but because the performance was too perfunctory, Peter and Harry despised him. To be honest, I still think the time is a bit short, otherwise maybe they can prepare better. Leiji hugged the back of the chair with both hands and tilted his head. The delicate part of East Asian culture can make you drop your jaw in surprise. If they want, they can completely create a space that belongs to you completely, including work and life. Let you be in a completely relaxed and comfortable state. There is no need to make any hardware changes, just some people's thoughts need to be changed. Leiji pointed to his head. They can make you so surprised. Peter and Harry were still a little surprised by this level of delicacy. Well, today, we have achieved the first step of our plan. Leiji looked at the expressions of the two and said speechlessly. What has been achieved? Peter was a little confused. It is an obscure way of communication in Asian culture. Harry used the method of checking the accounts to intimidate Eiji Yasuda. And he only focused on the actual financial part of the company. This sent a wrong message to Eiji Yasuda. This made him think that Harry only valued practical benefits. Leiji explained. This kind of knocking has the meaning of reminder, but also has a sense of indulgence. This is some tacit understanding in Asian cultural communication. Peter and Harry were a little confused listening to Leiji's explanation. For them, these things are a little too difficult to understand. This kind of secret communication is more like a ritual or philosophy. Harry made this gesture to hit Eiji Yasuda. After letting him know who is in charge of this company, Eiji Yasuda has understood Harry's intention. Or he thinks he understands all of Harry's intentions. He should be in a state of being cautious, but he has let go of a heavy stone in his heart. So his behavior today is a response to Harry's hitting. He showed his submission to you in this way. Leiji looked at the two people who still looked a little confused and could only shake his head. Oh my god, are we in a philosophy class? Can Asians communicate more simply and directly? Peter Parker finally couldn't help but shouted to Leiji. Chapter 314 Acting. Regardless of how much Harry and Peter understood about this obscure communication, Leiji had already decided to give up his explanation. Because in the 2-hour explanation, he started from China, the birthplace of East Asian culture, including its oldest political system and the sparks of collision between those ancient philosophers. He felt that his saliva was almost dry, but Harry and Peter still looked half understood, or just pretended to be half understood. If you really want to understand East Asian culture, it's best to live here for 10 years, as an Asian. And China, Japan and South Korea are still different. You need to live here for 30 years to really understand these inexplicable problems. Leiji ended with his closing remark. Okay, where were we? Harry shook his head, as if he had not listened to Leiji's explanation of East Asian culture just now, but only woke up from a dream after it ended. Leiji grinned and glared at Harry. I should die if I'm told that. Oh, yes, yes. You should die. Peter seemed to have recovered from a trance, and kept saying that Leiji should die. Hey. You did it on purpose. Leiji was a little angry at the two's reaction. Well, Whether the two did it on purpose or fell into days because of boring explanations, the things to be discussed should still be continued. Did Eiji Yasuda want to kill my mother? I don't think we need to follow a script. It also prevents him from making things too complicated and arranging a suitable plot for me to return to the United States. Leiji said to Peter and Harry. It just so happens that I can turn to the dark side and do more things. It prevents Eiji Yasuda and Mariko Yasuda from focusing on me. Hearing Leiji say this, Harry agreed with this approach. Since Eiji Yasuda has already made up his mind to kill Leiji, and he wants to track the Yasuda group, then Leiji's current situation in Japan is still quite dangerous. If there are other solutions, then there is no need to take unnecessary risks in many cases. But how exactly are you going to do it? Harry had some doubts. Have you forgotten? I'm a person who learns magic from the mages of Kamartaki. Leiji indicated that he was also a person who could do magic. Ah, I heard that your talent is very poor. The Supreme Mage thinks that you don't have the ability to learn magic. Peter silently complained. Shut up, Peter. Have you forgotten who used magic to disguise you last time you went to the Blackgate Market? Leiji countered. The matter of going to the Blackgate Market was before entering Hell, when he went to the Osaka branch of the Innocent Society to meet with Panchi. Leiji used simple magic to disguise himself and Peter, disguising himself and Peter as other people. Ah, you struggled for a long time that time, and used a lot of auxiliary things to complete it. Your magic is as backward as those wizards in the Middle Ages. Look at Magelan, her magic is called magic. Peter continued to complain. Shut up. Leiji decided not to cook for the two tonight, and they could eat wherever they liked. Give me a suitable reason, I should leave and go find Logan. So, later that day. This is not a good idea, Harry. There was a quarrel in Harry's office. You have to understand that there are problems in these accounts. You have been deceived by Eiji Yasuda. Leiji yelled at Harry in a rage. He even forgot to close the door when he walked into Harry's office. So much so that the voice of his quarrel could be heard by the secretary and other employees outside the door. There is obviously a problem here. The Philippines actually purchased up to $80 million of weapons and equipment from the Osborne Group. There must be a problem here, Harry. Leiji pointed at the things on a stack of data and showed it to Harry. I have been studying the sorted data all day today. There are indeed big problems with these accounts. You have to understand that the Philippines' national military expenditure this year is only $500 million. How can they take out nearly 1/6 of the national military expenditure to purchase equipment from the Osborne Group? Are they going to let their soldiers go hungry this year? There is a problem here. Jason, I have read all the financial reports. There is no problem, understand? Calm down. Do you need a drink? Harry sat behind the desk and said calmly. All the accounts are correct, and all the money is in the bank. Citibank's account has received all the money, do you understand? Harry took a bottle of Coke and threw it to Leiji. But there is a problem here, not just the Philippines. It also includes Laos, Vietnam, and Myanmar. The annual military expenditure of these countries is only pitifully small, but now they are buying equipment from the Osborne Group in large amounts. There is a problem here, do you understand, Harry? Leiji did not calm down according to what Harry said, he still pointed at the data and said. I understand, I understand. Jason, don't get excited. Now that the war in Europe is spreading, Asian countries feel nervous and begin to increase military investment. This is a very normal situation. Harry still looked calm. Aren't you worried that Yasuda Eiji is deceiving you? He sold our company's equipment to people who shouldn't sell it to, didn't he? Leiji suddenly said this in a very calm tone. Yasuda Eiji, who came to Harry's office after hearing the news that there was a real noise in Harry's office, happened to hear this sentence. That's enough, Mr. Jason. You are insulting my professional ethics. Who do you think I will sell those weapons to? This was the first time that Eiji Yasuda and Leiji had a direct and sharp conflict. Although he was older, he had the dignity of a superior. Like a tiger that had grown older, he stared at Leiji with his tiger power. Anyone? I know you, Mr. Eiji Yasuda. Leiji stared back without showing any weakness. Murderers, gangsters, warlords, terrorists, separatists. And anyone who can afford it, you will sell the weapons here to anyone. Let those weapons become tools for them to kill each other. You turned the Osborne Group into an accomplice of terrorists. Leiji gritted his teeth and said this paragraph, which was quite sincere. You must have forged evidence and covered up everything. That's enough. Eiji Yasuda interrupted Lee Ji's accusation loudly. He showed an unusual anger, and was no longer the polite old man who had always been in front of Harry. This is an unfounded accusation, and you have no evidence. I will send you to court, Mr. Jason. You should be the one in court. Lee Ji fought back without showing any weakness. Because of his height of 1.83 meters, he was nearly 15 centimeters taller than the Oriental Eiji Yasuda, and he had a condescending aura. Harry, I request a re-audit. We must find out the truth of the problem. We also need to inform and inquire about several countries. Lee Ji asked sincerely. And Eiji Yasuda looked at Lee Ji with the eyes of a monster. You are crazy. What qualifications do you have to make a diplomatic note to a sovereign country? The two debated fiercely, but it was useless. Because the head of the company, Harry Osborn, had been sitting behind his desk and did not speak. The two also realized this, so Lee Ji and Eiji Yasuda cast their eyes on Harry. Chapter 315 Exit. Oh. Harry saw the two of them looking at him, but he did not express his thoughts. He just said oh meaninglessly and spread his hands. Oh? Harry, you need to make a decision. This is your company. Lee Ji frowned and said to Harry. Yes, if you understand that this is Mr. Harry's company, then you know that some things do not need too much comment. Yasuda Eiji felt that he vaguely understood Harry's thoughts. And I think Mr. Jason, you are too prejudiced against me. You are Mr. Harry's personal consultant. Your biased opinions will affect Mr. Harry's views on some things and even affect his decision-making for the entire company. So, do you absolutely care too much? Yasuda Eiji spoke to Lee Ji, but the words were said by Harry. Or do you have any ideas? I heard that you have a close personal relationship with Mr. Tony Stark. Although we are no longer in a competitive relationship with the Stark Group, there is no friendship between businesses. Yasuda Eiji's point of view is very correct from a certain perspective. After all, whether in politics or business, there are no eternal friends, only eternal interests. But the information he could find about Lee Ji was too little. He had no idea that the alliance between Stark Industries and Osborn Group was facilitated by him. In order to make Harry have achievements when he succeeded to the throne, Lee Ji had been behind the scenes. Including the negotiations with Stark Industries, it was announced to the outside world that it was done by Harry personally. He had no idea what the relationship was between Tony Stark, Harry Osborn and Lee Ji. The inferences made by Eiji Yasuda based on his own experience and the hints between his words seemed very effective to him. Because Harry's brows had already frowned slightly. Okay, Jason, that's enough. Harry finally spoke. I'm a businessman. You have to understand. My father Norman Osborn always said to me, keep your pockets and do your business well. Norman did often educate Harry like this, but it was hard to say whether it was useful, but he could always use this sentence now. The most important thing in doing business is to have clear accounts, and all the money is where it should be, such as in the city bank account. Harry pointed to his chest, where there was a stack of checkbooks and his personal credit card. As long as there are legal procedures, then the business we do is legal. You have to understand, Jason. There is no point in tracking. Harry looked at Lee Ji and said earnestly, and walked to Lee Ji's side and put his arm around his shoulders. Do you understand? Now the first quarter financial report has made the Osborn Group stock rise, and this increase will become normalized, just like Stark Group's development of new energy. We have grasped the weapons manufacturing and military industry. Sometimes, maybe we can't care too much about more things. Chairman Yasuda Eiji has done a good job. Harry said, looking at Yasuda Eiji and smiled. There are legal procedures and national channels. The important thing is that money enters the company's account. And all of this is legal, Jason. Do you understand? We have no violations at the legal level. Harry patted Lee Ji's shoulder meaningfully. We can cooperate with those companies and individuals with stains, which will ruin the reputation of our company, but we can't guarantee that everything is under our control. So the key to everything is whether we have violated the law. As long as everything is legal, then wake up. At the same time, as my personal consultant, you also understand what the consequences will be if we continue to investigate. Wall Street stocks will fall, investors will complain or even abuse us, and the board of directors will put me under tremendous pressure. Think about all this, Jason. After Harry finished speaking, he loosened his arms around Lee Ji's shoulders. On the side, Eiji Yasuda began to understand what Harry meant. Yes, From his skillful control skills, Harry Osborn is an excellent businessman, just like his father. The most outstanding offspring of the Lion King is also the Lion King. Even if he is a little young, it still cannot cover up this. Eiji Yasuda has since begun to respect Harry completely. So, you think everything doesn't matter, right? Li Ji's tone was a little empty, and he glanced at Harry. Don't be like this, Jason. Business is just business. Don't be so depressed. Harry looked at Li Ji and comforted him reluctantly. Look, we are still best friends. And as my personal consultant, you can always help me find various problems and come up with various solutions. It's just that you may be a little tired recently. Since I took office, you have been supporting me, which makes you a little tired. Maybe how about traveling with those accountants? Or you want to do something else? If you don't want to stay in the East, you can go to the Caribbean or Hawaii. You can go anywhere on the earth, I'll pay for it. Harry seemed to want to make Li Ji happy as much as possible. Well, I am indeed a little tired. I want to go back to New York first. Let your private plane take me back first. I don't want to go to the airport and then squeeze in with a group of people to fly across the Pacific Ocean. Li Ji was a little weak, and his voice revealed a sense of frustration. So when do you want to leave? Harry frowned slightly. Tonight, so that I can sleep on the plane and arrive in New York in the morning of American time. After saying this, Li Ji waved his hand a little weakly and said goodbye to Harry. And he never looked at Yasuda Eiji straight in the eye. I'll arrange it for you, go back and have a good rest. I'll be back to New York in a few days. Harry shouted at Li Ji's departing back. After listening to the conversation between the two, Yasuda Eiji was a little surprised at the strong relationship between Li Ji and Harry. Even if there was a conflict, Harry still gave in to Li Ji. This way of getting along is a way between friends, not a way for an employer and an employee to get along. However, the fact that Li Ji was going to leave Donggyang tonight disrupted Yasuda Eiji's plan. He had already worked out with Yasuda Mariko how to get rid of Li Ji. At least leaving temporarily is a good thing, and after the last audit and the real quarrel between the two this time, I finally understand Mr. Harry's inner thoughts. Yasuda Eiji thought so, and felt that there were some ways to persuade Harry to accept the Yasuda group. Chapter 316 Spy. This farce co-starred by Harry and Li Ji to deceive Eiji Yasuda. Because the content of the argument between the two was in line with the common disagreements in business. Due to disagreements in concepts, many business partners have parted ways. So Li Ji's decision to leave Donggyang and return to New York did not arouse this suspicion at all. Although it was a pity that he could not get rid of this little devil who made him unhappy this time, there was still a long time and there were still many opportunities, right? At about 6 o'clock in the evening, Li Ji boarded Harry's private plane and left Donggyang directly. For Eiji Yasuda, the annoying guy who had been hindering him finally left. This made him very happy, and what made him even happier was that Harry invited him to dinner. This was a good opportunity for Eiji Yasuda. Of course, what he didn't know was that all this was just a carefully arranged serial trap, and all this was to lure him, the old fox, to relax his vigilance and catch him. The one who left Donggyang was not Li Ji, but a bodyguard who had served the Osborn family for 15 years. He had served the family since Norman's time, and he knew very well what he should ask and what he shouldn't ask. So Li Ji used his crappy magic and makeup to make him look like himself, pretending that he had left Donggyang. This crappy spell can last for about 3 hours, or it can be eliminated by washing your face. In fact, it is not very practical, which is why Guyu thought Li Ji was not good at learning magic. Because he didn't even learn this simple illusion magic very well. Tokyo time. 2000 hours. Outside Eiji Yasuda's villa in Chuo District, Osaka. You know, your performance with Harry today should win an Oscar. It was so wonderful. When I saw the two of you quarreling from the surveillance footage next door, I almost thought it was real. Peter Parker was wearing a black tights and a hood, not the Spider-Man uniform he wore when he was in action. After all, what he is going to do now is similar to corporate espionage, which is not a very glorious thing. If he is discovered, Spider-Man's reputation will be ruined. Although there is a stealth stand launcher, it is still necessary to make a foolproof countermeasure. Li Ji also wore the same black tights and the same black hood. He fumbled out a miniature signal jammer from his combat belt and handed it to Peter. Yes, I also think the acting is not bad. Maybe we should wait until our comics have a greater influence and start filming some superheroes with related themes, and we ourselves will be the protagonists. But let's get started now. First, make the security equipment of this villa blind and deaf, so that we can get in smoothly. Luigi pointed to the tools in Peter's hand, a signal jammer shielding device, and a palm-held microcomputer with supercomputing power. Yasuda Eiji's villa uses the security facilities of the Osborn Group, and all the technologies of the Osborn Group have been backed up in Norman's own manner before his death. There is no perfect protection device in the world. As long as it is a protective facility, it will generally have loopholes. It's just that these loopholes cannot be discovered by ordinary people, or they cannot be solved after being discovered. Norman is very clear about the advantages and disadvantages of the products he produces. For example, the private residential security system that Eiji Yasuda is using was launched on the market 3 years ago. Norman has detailed the advantages and disadvantages in the database of the manor. So Luigi and Peter have already made full preparations for today's invasion. As for asking where Eiji Yasuda went, he was invited by Harry to attend a dinner after get off work, and it is estimated that he will not be able to get back to his residence before 11 o'clock in the evening. In fact, in addition to Eiji Yasuda, several other company executives were also invited by Harry. Naturally, including those guys who are connected with Eiji Yasuda. Peter first used the signal interference shielding device to adjust the frequency to a special frequency band, blocking the possibility of the security system sending an intrusion alarm signal to Eiji Yasuda. After that, Peter began to use the palm computer in his hand to crack the security system of Eiji Yasuda's home. Do you think you will hide a lot of information at home? Peter asked Luigi in a low voice while cracking the system. Not necessarily, but for him, most of what they do is illegal. In addition to hiding at home, I don't think they want to put their evidence in the safe of the bank at will. You know, banks are not so safe in many cases. Luigi said while taking out some things from his combat belt. With the information left by Norman, it took Peter some time to crack the security system of this house. It took about 7 minutes to control the entire system of the house. Okay, while there is no one in the house, let's act quickly. Luigi said, handing Peter a handful of black electronic components. Although Luigi believed that Yasuda Eiji would hide a lot of useful information at home, he was not going to search like a headless fly. Unless he now has a set of Iron Man's neutrino scanning equipment in his hand, which can quickly scan and locate the entire house and find suspicious things, it is undoubtedly a waste of time to rely on manpower to search. You know, tonight he and Peter are not just visiting Eiji Yasuda's house, they are going to visit the homes of those guys who are in collusion with Eiji Yasuda. It is difficult to find everything by relying on 2 people, and the traces of searching are too heavy, which will arouse other people's vigilance. Therefore, installing the special surveillance camera as big as a black bean is the main task this time. I feel that what we are doing now is particularly like spies. Peter couldn't help but say when installing cameras in various secret places in the room. Yes, commercial espionage. Luigi did not deny this. As he spoke, he found the main power switch of the house. He installed a small thing like a flying top into the switch, and then reinstalled the cover of the switch. The small thing like a flying top is actually a signal interception device. Like the surveillance camera as big as a black bean, it is a technological product that Norman only keeps in the underground laboratory of the manor, but has not made public. Because these 2 things are complex to produce, but the profit is limited. If the production process cannot reduce costs a lot, this product cannot be put on the shelf for sale. The black bean camera needs to be used in conjunction with the FITRO signal interceptor, which transmits the image signal obtained by the camera. The FITRO signal interceptor itself also has another function, which is to intercept various information connected to the power grid through the power grid, including information sent by the router, data inside the computer, and even when you are charging your mobile phone, it can steal your mobile phone data through the current. This highly efficient spy weapon is more sci-fi than the equipment used by James Bond in the movie 007. Retreat. We are going to the next one. Luigi has already dealt with everything on hand, and when he saw that Peter had finished his work, he whispered to him, "There is a lot of work to do tonight." Chapter 317 Go Meet Your Son. Luigi and Peter were busy. Harry on the other side was also busy in his own way. In a high-end hotel in Osaka, the banquet had become very lively. Under Harry's deliberate guidance, the high-level Japanese executives who came to the banquet were a little drunk. After all, the top boss urged his subordinates to drink, and no one could refuse. Maybe it was because they drank too much, or for some other reasons. Eiji Yasuda came to Harry's side and began to lobby for cooperation with the Yasuda group again. No, 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 I said no. Chairman Yasuda. Harry interrupted Eiji Yasuda before he finished speaking. The Yasuda group has a gangster background, do you understand? Harry emphasized the pronunciation of the word gangster. You have to understand that it takes dozens or hundreds of years to establish a company's brand image, but it only takes a moment to destroy it. So the gangster background of the Yasuda group is the key reason why I will never consider cooperation, do you understand? Harry shook his glass and said softly. So, Osborn Group can only cooperate with companies without mafia background, do you understand? Although Miss Mariko has attractive bargaining chips in her hands, the object of our cooperation must be clean. Harry stared into Eiji Yasuda's eyes and said so. At this point, Eiji Yasuda already understood what Harry wanted to express. He nodded thoughtfully and said to Harry. Mr. Harry, I think I know what to do. Harry had a smile on his face, revealing an intriguing attitude. When the cocktail party was over, Luigi and Peter also installed all the detectors where they should go. Harry sent a message, the cocktail party is over. And according to your instructions, he hinted to Chairman Yasuda. Peter's microcomputer received Harry's message. Okay, I'm done here too. But I don't have time to go back to see Harry. I will go to Tokyo by myself later, you tell Harry. Luigi and Peter began to pack up. Peter, use the information you intercepted to monitor the guys' every move, including their bank account information, as long as they use their own computers or mobile phones at home, and any electronic devices that may store data are connected to a power source. The FITRO signal interception device can feed back that information to you through electric current. Luigi had already packed up everything. Luigi stepped onto the glider that had been prepared long ago, opened the stealth position, and said one last thing to Peter before leaving. Let's finish these things as soon as possible. The SAT, American Higher Education Test, is about to start. I thought you didn't want to go to college, why do you still care about the Saturday? Peter couldn't help but complain. I really don't care, but my grandfather, as a traditional Chinese, requires me to take the exam and get a good score. God knows what the point is. Luigi complained like this, drove the glider to open the stealth position, and flew towards Tokyo at a speed of 200 kilometers per hour. Peter also packed up all his things, waved in the direction of Luigi's departure, and headed towards the Osaka City Hotel where he was staying. Luigi went to Tokyo not to play, because there was a Logan waiting for him there. The boy suspected to be Logan's son needed to be dealt with. At the same time, the connection between Eiji Yasuda and Mariko Yasuda and the illegal sale of Osborn Group equipment in secret also needed to be dealt with. These things had to be dealt with by Luigi. As for Logan in Tokyo, Logan's mood had not been very calm since he met Luigi last time. He has a son? This is a joke. But deep in his heart, he vaguely felt that this was true. It was precisely because of this idea that he had been in a somewhat uneasy state for the past 2 days. This feeling is hard to describe. In short, it is a feeling that makes people sit still. Even Logan couldn't sleep these 2 days. He only slept for about 4 hours in 2 days. Now his eyes are full of bloodshot, and because of a lot of drinking, the guest room where he lives is full of bottles. Logan lives in a Tokyo homestay that was booked for rent online. This temporary residence was arranged by the people of the Innocence Society. The Innocence Society has always been operating in Japan as an underground identity. And there has never been any friction with the Yasuda group, so there is no power of the hand in society in the Tokyo area, but there is a part of the Pure Soul Society. The distance from Osaka to Tokyo is about 550 kilometers. Luigi flew at a speed of 200 kilometers per hour for nearly 3 hours to reach Logan's foothold. Although because of the stealth position, Luigi can fly at a low altitude. But at night, flying on a glider for 3 hours at this speed is not a good enjoyment. You know, he is not wearing a single soldier power armor now, and there is no life support system that can help him maintain body temperature. So when he came to Logan's residence, he felt that his hands and feet were already a little cold. The house where Logan lives is an independent Japanese flat-roofed house with a good area, only about 70 square meters. Oh. Give me a bottle of wine, Logan, the wind in the east is really cool at night. Luigi saw a lot of wine bottles placed in a mess at the door as soon as he entered the house. There's only beer? I have finished the others. Logan sat in the living room, smoking and watching TV. But it was obvious that his mind was not on watching TV, because he kept changing channels, and the state time on each channel was no more than 3 seconds. Lee Ji did not drink the cold beer, which could not warm up the body. I'm glad you stayed here and didn't go out. Lee Ji walked to Logan's side and sat cross-legged on the tatami next to him. You warned me repeatedly, and I always thought you were a man of action. Judging from your past actions. Logan glanced at Lee Ji and shook his head silently. But now I realize that you are more troublesome than Charles. Necessary preparations must be made, Logan. I don't want to turn on the TV one morning and see the news about a mutant with steel claws committing a horrific terrorist murder in Tokyo. There may be hundreds of casualties. Such a crime is enough to make you wanted worldwide. I make it sound like I am keen on killing. You really don't like killing, you are just a little impulsive. I can't guarantee what you will do when you meet your son when no one is watching. Logan turned his head and didn't want to say too much when he heard what Lee Ji said. Well, it's late now, I should rest. And you should go to bed too. Looking at the bloodshot in your eyes, have you not slept for the past 2 days? Go to bed quickly and get ready. What preparations? To see your son. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318 Final Preparation. In Harry's suggestive words, Yasuda Eiji thought he understood Harry's thoughts. To describe it in a vulgar way, it is wanting to be a whore, but also wanting to be a saint. So when Mariko received a call from Yasuda Eiji, Chairman Yasuda told Mariko Harry's thoughts in a concise way. Yasuda, you need a new company without any bad records. This is the most basic basis for cooperation. At least on the surface, it will not be found out that it is related to the Yasuda group. Mariko, it will take at least 5 days for me to get it done. Yasuda, there is not so much time. Mr. Harry will stay in Japan for 3 days at most. You only have 2 days at most to prepare. He can't stay in Japan for a long time. You have to understand that his attitude towards this cooperation is, it's best if there is, but it doesn't matter if there is no cooperation. Mariko frowned. I will do it as soon as possible. Yasuda, the sooner the better, I will help you stabilize it. The company's audit has been completed, and the deposit for the last transaction with the Ten Rings gang does not need to be entrusted to you. Yasuda was talking about his underground dealings with Mariko. When Abidia was still the actual leader of Stark Industries, most of their advanced weapons and equipment came from Stark Industries. Since Stark Industries closed its weapons department, they turned their attention to the Osborn Group, which was named after Stark Industries. This transaction was found by the Ten Rings gang through the Yasuda Group a month ago. They ordered weapons and equipment worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and they have paid a 50% deposit to the Yasuda Group. After all the equipment transactions are completed within half a year, they will pay the remaining 50%. Mariko laughed on the other end of the phone. Are you a little impatient? Yasuda, money is always more secure in your own pocket. After the short call, Yasuda Mariko knew that she might become even busier during this period of time. Transfer the US dollars belonging to Yasuda Eiji and his people into their accounts. Mariko, through her own accountant, has transferred a large amount of US dollars and Japanese yen to the secret bank accounts of these rats in the Osborn Group. When Eiji Yasuda and his partners connected to their highly protected personal computers and logged into their private bank accounts to check their accounts, they did not know yet that the most important part of their criminal evidence was illegal funds. This important information had been stolen by the FITRO signal interceptor using electric current, and then passed on to Peter Parker through electric current again. Mariko, like Eiji Yasuda, did not know the plan of Lee Ji and Harry. Everything they did today had been completely leaked. After dealing with the financial issues of Chairman Yasuda, Mariko pondered for a while and called her personal assistant. Stop talking about the American side. Assistant, is it about the transfer of Master Dakin's genetic samples? Mariko, now there is a great possibility of cooperation with the Osborn Group. We don't need to deal with the American beast. All genetic samples are sealed in the top secret archives. Cancel the cooperation with the United States. Assistant, I understand, Miss Mariko. In the Osaka City Hotel in Kansai, Toyo. The data is being transmitted. I have started to decrypt it. Peter was using a computer to receive various signals from the FITRO signal interceptor. Using electric current to invade the communication information system is a project that all countries are researching. However, most of the research is still in the laboratory stage. There are almost no products that can be put on the production line. In addition to being a business leader, the equipment that Norman Osborn, as a scientist, studies is much more advanced than most of the equipment currently owned by research laboratories in various countries. However, for various purposes, Norman did not make these results public. This also allows Peter Parker to silently invade the computers and communication equipment of AG Yasuda and others in this way today, and it has not been discovered. When one by one, the data is transmitted to Peter Parker's hands through the electric current in a way that no one knows, and the seemingly chaotic electric current waves are restored into binary codes and C+ language that can be read by the computer through the special signal restorer. One by one, the evidence of the crimes of AG Yasuda and others appeared on the computer screen, and the huge amount of funds from unknown sources were the best evidence. It seems that they have made a lot of money from you. Peter turned his head and glanced at Harry while counting Yasuda's illegal income. And it's possible that many of them were sold to terrorists. This time, the Osborn Group has really become an accomplice of terrorism. Harry looked at the various data displayed on the computer screen expressionlessly. He had no desire to speak at all. But Peter was not going to let him keep his mouth shut. What are you going to do now? Harry twitched his mouth. Collect all the evidence of the crime and do it according to what I discussed with Jason before. I will make official notifications to all places involving terrorist organizations' crimes. In the initial plan, Li Ji and the other two discussed the final handling method of this matter. The final conclusion was that if a large number of international terrorist organizations were involved, then it was necessary to make notifications to the authorities. After all, the Osborn Group is just a company, not a country, and it has no right to track down any person related to any foreign relevant department. Once it involves a terrorist organization, the US government will always track it down, especially in this incident. The Ten Rings gang is also involved. Compared with China, the Osborn Group will also attach great importance to such a notification. With the influence of the United States and China in Asia, it will be easier to deal with such things. This was also a preparation for the crisis public relations that would be carried out later. After all, Li Ji, Harry and Peter did not expect the stock of Osborn Group to plummet because of this incident. While AG Yasuda and his partners were busy checking the numbers in their bank accounts, while Mariko was working hard to deal with a shell company that could cooperate with Osborn Group, while Harry and Peter were preparing for the final round of operations, Li Ji, who was in Tokyo, ran into trouble. I said, "Don't touch my beard." Wolverine Logan was stretching out his steel claws made of adamantium, staring at Li Ji. Li Ji squinted his eyes and grinned, holding a razor and scissors in his hands, and he stood opposite Wolverine. Chapter 319 Meeting. Logan, you have to shave your beard, do you understand? Your beard is too eye-catching. With this kind of beard, people don't need to see your face, they can recognize you just by seeing your beard. Li Ji said helplessly. You said you have the magic of shape shifting, which you learned from the magician of Kamartaki. Why do you want me to shave my beard? Can't you just change my appearance for me? Logan was uncompromising about this matter. Oh, you see. There are some small problems here. Li Ji hesitated when it came to magic. Small problems. Logan's eyes showed disbelief. I'm afraid it's a big problem. You haven't learned magic well enough. Logan had guessed the crux of the problem. No, you see, I still have a way to use shape-shifting magic to change a person's appearance. Look at me now. Li Ji pointed to his face. He had now changed into the face of an oriental man commonly seen in Tokyo. Except for his tall stature, there was nothing else that attracted attention. Yes, so why did you shave my beard? Logan did not put away his steel claws because of Li Ji's words, he still stayed with him. Li Ji could only raise his hands in surrender as he saw Logan refuse to give in. Okay, let me be frank. My shape-shifting magic is a little incomplete, and I can't use magic to remove some particularly obvious features on your face, such as the beard on your face. Wow, now that you say that, you are really a great wizard. Logan seized the opportunity to mock Li Ji directly. In the end, Logan's beard was not shaved. The original plan was that the two of them disguised themselves as ordinary Japanese people and approached the place they were going to in a normal and unobtrusive way. But now this method seems to be unworkable. Li Ji could only curl his lips helplessly. He originally wanted to experiment whether Wolverine would look more kind after shaving his beard. The invisible position that Dr. Hank gave you should have been used now, Logan said as he walked in the streets of Tokyo. Keep your voice down. The invisible shielding position can only hide our figures, but it can't cover our voices. Suddenly, a sentence of English popped up in an empty place. I'm afraid that the tabloids in Tokyo can write some boring gossip tomorrow, Li Ji said helplessly as he walked. You used to be a mercenary, killer, or assassin. Have you ever thought that your image is too eye-catching and you will be recognized? As he walked towards the destination, Li Ji couldn't help but complain to Logan. No, as an assassin, as long as you kill everyone you see, naturally no one will recognize you, Logan said his assassin's way expressionlessly. Li Ji was a little speechless for a while, and responded after a long time. You are really an excellent assassin. In Tokyo Ginza, inside a high-end club called Cheyenne Wrong. This is where Li Ji and Logan are going. Because the day before Harry was about to leave Japan, that is, today, Yashida Mariko finally handled all the matters of the new company. A shell company that had nothing to do with the Yashida group, no matter how it was traced, was established by her in just 2 days. It must be said that Mariko's influence in Japan is indeed very large. All the complicated procedures of the government gave her the green light all the way, and they also handled it specially, so that she could solve all this in 2 days. Ms. Mariko, you really impressed me. Harry's words were sincere. Mariko's strength in the East cannot be ignored. No, Mr. Harry, you are too kind. In this way, I think we have the possibility of continuing the negotiations, right? Mariko responded with a smile. This meeting was organized by Eiji Yasuda, who spent a lot of effort to lobby Harry. In fact, this was just a pretense for Harry. In fact, no matter what Eiji Yasuda said, he would come here to meet Mariko. Because the last step of the entire East Asia plan is here. Wolverine's child and the Yashida group are the last problems to be solved. Putting aside the connection between the Yashida group and Eiji Yasuda. Just talking about Wolverine's child, just for this child, Li Ji and the other two may not be able to sit idly by. After all, Logan is also a comrade in arms who has experienced hardships, and he has an obligation to help him in this matter. And from Mariko's words, her plot against Dakin is not small. Li Ji and others knew very well how valuable a mutant with super healing ability like Wolverine was. Unlike those mutants with destructive abilities, not everyone wanted to become a humanoid nuclear weapon. Sometimes being a humanoid nuclear weapon was not fun at all. But everyone wanted health and longevity, which was why the Osborn Group's limb regeneration plan was so popular around the world, and even comparable to Tony's new energy plan. Once the gene code on Dakin was deciphered, its value was self-evident. What Li Ji feared most was that this gene would be obtained by someone who shouldn't have it. Since the last time he and Tony dealt with a giant weapon similar to the Hulk, and this giant weapon of the vampire organization broke through the SHIELD headquarters in New York, causing the unprecedented fall of SHIELD, even Cyclops Nick was dismissed for this. From this, we can see how much damage this kind of biological weapon can cause. If these people wait until they have an ability similar to Logan that is invincible, it would be terrible. So Miss Mariko, I want to take another look at the child. I want to confirm it for sure. Is that ability his mutant ability or mutation of some genetic medicine? Harry asked Mariko. And this request was also implied in the question. Mariko had already prepared for it. Dakin was brought here from the next room by 2 strong men in black. He was still a little timid as he was last time. Harry tried not to let his words have any emotion. Peter, check his X gene, he said to Peter who came with him. Peter came to Tokyo this time to play the role of a technical officer, and he was very interested in biotechnology. He used the equipment he brought with him, and under the supervision of Mariko's bodyguards, he began to check Dakin's X gene. While Peter was checking, Harry said to Mariko with a smile. Speaking of mutants with self-healing abilities, there is a very famous guy in the United States recently. Do you know him? The Wolverine in the X-Men. In the event of mutants going out of control, the X-Men are quite active. Although they have not been on the mainstream media, their stories are circulated in the news. The Wolverine Logan in the story also has a super strong self-healing ability. Is this child related to Logan? Harry looked at Mariko and said. Mr. Harry, this may be a bit too private. Mariko didn't really want to answer. Miss Mariko, the cooperation between the two parties should be based on integrity, right? You have to know that Wolverine is not a character that can be easily messed with. If this child is really involved with him, I think I need to think of a backup plan. What Harry said made sense. Mariko thought for a while and said slowly. Okay, Mr. Harry. They do have some connections, but this is all I can reveal. When Harry and Mariko were negotiating in the room, in the corner of the room, 3 invisible adamantium claws slowly stretched out. Chapter 320 Meeting. Luigi and Logan had arrived here before Harry. Using the invisible stance to shield their forms, the two hid in the corner. Luigi arranged the meeting between Logan and Dakin through the meeting between Harry and Mariko. Because the Yashida group has so many industries, Luigi doesn't know where Mariko will hide Dakin. Harry must lure Mariko out before Dakin can be rescued. Dakin looks about 60% like Mariko. His facial features are as soft as those of an Oriental, but his eyes and eyebrows are very similar to Logan. When Logan showed his steel claws, Luigi stopped him. Now is not the time for him to take action, and Harry and Peter are still here. Logan's face is expressionless now, which is the most terrifying. You know, wolves are usually unusually calm when hunting, and they will never show any of their emotions before they get their prey. So he is Wolverine's son. Harry didn't care about what Mariko said, and he ignored the suggestion of not discussing this issue anymore. What do you call me, kid? Harry tried to be more affectionate and asked Dakin. Dakin. Dakin's answer was very concise. He didn't seem to speak often, so his pronunciation seemed a little awkward. This was natural, because Mariko never let Dakin leave the control of the Yashida Foundation, and it was impossible for him to go to school. Dakin, don't worry. I don't want to do anything bad to you, understand? Harry said kindly. So, Miss Mariko, he is Wolverine's son. Harry turned his head and looked at Mariko, and repeated the question again. Mariko didn't answer, she just looked at Harry. This is not the key, Mr. Harry. For some reason, Mariko suddenly felt uneasy in her heart, a feeling she couldn't put into words. Peter used the equipment to check the X gene to check Dakin. The X gene energy radiation intensity in Dakin's body was very high. The equipment had just been attached to Dakin's arm and had already read his X gene reading. Very powerful X gene ability. You have abilities that don't match your grade. The X gene activity has reached level 5 activity, super high dominance. Are you an alpha level mutant? Peter was somewhat surprised at the activity of Dakin's X gene. Generally, the higher the activity of the X gene, the greater its ability. As long as there is no obvious sign of X gene fusion failure, this high intensity and high activity represents an alpha level mutant. According to Dr. Hank and the professor, this is the most perfect level of fusion among mutants. Even Wolverine is only a beta level mutant, one level lower than the alpha level. Because his self-healing gene has a defect, he cannot heal his wounds according to his own will. Wolverine's self-healing ability is a passive skill, not an active skill. It is an ability that he cannot control. Fortunately, self-healing ability is an ability that does not harm others, so Wolverine does not have the possibility of losing control of his X ability. Boy, I heard that Wolverine has a pair of steel claws. Do you have them too? Peter whispered in his ear while checking Dakin's body. Is he your father? Dakin originally came here today, thinking that he would need to demonstrate a self-healing ability for his mother's guests, just like last time. He hated and feared the feeling of pain caused by injury. So he has always been a little timid. But what was the content of the conversation between this person and his mother Mariko? Father? Does he have a father? Dakin is a little demented. Because in what Mariko has said to Dakin, she has never mentioned that he has a father. In Mariko's story, Dakin is a product of a genetic experiment. It was Mariko who gave birth to him, and he has no real father. Or rather, his father is just a tube of genes. In Mariko's brainwashing education for more than 10 years, Dakin was educated by her in a completely different way from normal peers. In order to stimulate his X ability, there were countless experiments in which he survived death. In order to make his X ability stronger, he had to be trained in a cruel way by those ninjas every time, and it could even be said to be torture. Those scenes of flying flesh and blood are still in front of Dakin's eyes. The pain and nausea brought by the fragments of his own internal organs pouring into his stomach are still in his memory. Why is Dakin so afraid of pain? Even though he has the ability to heal himself and has suffered countless injuries, he still cannot adapt to this feeling? Because Mariko did something to him. Deacon's brain was modified when he was 12 years old and just stimulated his mutant ability. Many terrorist organizations will assign special personnel to perform special tasks. They are people whose pain nerves have been removed and whose fear thoughts have been removed. The human brain is responsible for all the feelings of the human body. Whether you feel joy or sadness, pleasure or pain, it is caused by various neurostimulants secreted in the brain and countless biological pulse currents in the brain stimulating neurons. Scientists in this world have never stopped their research on the human brain. Since someone can isolate people's pain and fear, then there is naturally a way to make this perception stronger. Deacon's brain has been modified in this way. He is more sensitive to pain than ordinary people, and will never adapt and endure. In order to prevent Deacon from rebelling in the future, Mariko also installed a tiny nerve stimulation system in Deacon's brain. As long as Deacon dares to resist her, she will activate this system. The neurostimulator will release a large amount of chemicals that make the human brain feel pain. This huge pain is enough to make Deacon fall to the ground and twitch all over. After experiencing this feeling several times, Deacon no longer dared to resist Mariko. Just like humans training dogs, if you train a certain action and feedback for a long time, the dog will have a subconscious reaction in the future. And humans will also be like this through the same training. In fact, carbon-based creatures may be similar in this regard. And the transformation of Deacon is more than that. Deacon's bone claws are getting sharper and sharper now. Even solid steel can be easily cut by him. In order to prevent accidents, Mariko also installed a limiter on Deacon's bone claws. The switch is also in Mariko's hand. As long as she feels it is necessary, she can completely close the two bone claws on Deacon's hands and prevent it from extending. It is precisely because of all these things that Deacon's life can be said to be bleak. He cannot escape the clutches of Mariko's control, no matter what. Any desire to resist Mariko will eventually become a cruel torture for himself. And what are the two people in front of him talking about? A man who is like him, and looks like a man that Mariko is afraid of. And this man is his father? The extinguished fire in Deacon's heart rekindled. In his heart, there was a crazy voice shouting, "Go find the man called Wolverine, he can save you from the sea of suffering." As if possessed by a ghost, Deacon, who never showed his bone claws in front of outsiders, now stretched out his bone claws. Two sharp bone claws stretched out from the gap between the finger roots, and the pale white color looked a bit creepy. "My claws are made of bones. Not steel, aren't Wolverine's claws metal?" Deacon said such a long sentence for the first time, and his pronunciation seemed even more weird. But it didn't matter, he was eager to know more about Logan now. When Peter and Harry saw his extended bone claws, they looked at each other, and they were now completely sure that Deacon was Logan's son. Such mutant abilities are exactly the same. If you say it's not Logan's, who would believe it? Logan, who was standing at the corner, almost went crazy the moment he saw Deacon stretch out his claws. His eyes flashed with various expressions, including sadness, joy, and anger. Luigi almost used all his strength to hold him down so that he could not make any sound. Luigi whispered in Logan's ear, "Wait. It will be done soon." Mariko was not happy to see Deacon stretch out his claws. Her face turned ugly instantly. "Deacon, what are you doing?" The harsh questioning immediately shattered some of Deacon's fantasies that had just risen. Yes, he was still under the control of his mother Mariko. The fear of Mariko almost came from Deacon's inner instinct. Just a look from Mariko scared him so much that he put his bone claws back. Peter had already done all the examinations on Deacon and put away all the equipment. It seems that this child is a powerful mutant, and he definitely has an unusual relationship with Logan. Peter said this while packing up his things. "Yes, Logan." Harry responded meaninglessly. "So Mr. Harry, what about the cooperation plan?" Now that both of them have guessed the relationship between Deacon and Wolverine, Mariko can't pursue it. What's important now is her own plan. "I'm sorry, Ms. Mariko. I'm afraid our cooperation can't go on. Harry has done what he should do, and he doesn't plan to beat around the bush with Mariko now." "But didn't you say to Chairman Yasuda?" I think he may have misunderstood a little. Now that it has been revealed, Harry has nothing to hide. This child is Wolverine's son. We don't want to get into any trouble with the X-Men. You know, none of them are easy to mess with. But as long as we don't leak the news, no one else will know." Mariko responded immediately. What if they already know? Harry said somewhat ambiguously. After saying this, he nodded to Peter, and the two strode away from here. There is also a father who is almost crazy in this room. If it weren't for Luigi holding Logan, Logan would have rushed up long ago. Harry doesn't want to see the scene of domestic violence. And according to Luigi's plan, the rats in Osaka will be closed in today. Mariko didn't react, and Harry took Peter away quickly. He didn't give her a chance to stay. This was not a negotiation technique. They really left at full speed. The feeling of uneasiness in Mariko's heart became stronger and stronger. She felt that something bad was going to happen. Pack up your things, and let's leave here quickly. Okay, now everyone who has nothing to do with it has left. Logan, you should handle your family affairs yourself. After seeing Harry and Peter leave quickly, Luigi said to Logan softly. At the same time, he also loosened his control over him. Logan, who had been furious for a long time, had already revealed all 6 steel claws on both hands. Remove my invisibility. Logan's voice was low, even a little roaring. Luigi removed Logan's invisibility. This strong man suddenly appeared in the room. Appeared in front of Mariko and Deacon. His 6 steel claws made of adamantium alloy showed the cold edge through the refraction of light. Wolverine's Japanese has always been poor, but this time his accent was unusually pure. Yashida Mariko. Long time no see. Chapter 321 Unavoidable Domestic Violence. Logan's sudden appearance made the scene suddenly become unusually quiet. The only sound in the room now was the stomping sound of him walking on the floor. Dakin did not show any emotion to the man who suddenly appeared at first, until he saw the steel claws on Logan's hands, and he instantly understood. The man who suddenly appeared was Wolverine Logan, the man they were talking about just now, the man who was his father. And the moment Mariko saw Logan, she also understood where her uneasiness came from. She thought of Dakin at the first time. She found that Dakin's face showed a fanatical emotion. This was not a good sign. Mariko took out the remote control that controlled the device in Dakin's body from her pocket without any hesitation. Now she might be in big trouble, and she didn't want to cause any more trouble. So she used the equipment implanted in Dakin's hand to lock Dakin's bone claws, so that he would not have the opportunity to stretch them out later. What do you want to do, Logan? Mariko said with some bluffing. Logan stopped moving forward and kept a distance from Mariko. Now Dakin was in the middle of Mariko and Logan. I should be the one asking you what you want to do. Logan's tone was filled with unconcealed anger. His clenched fists were blue and his strong arms were even shaking slightly. You can imagine how furious he is now. Luigi still stood in the corner with the cloaking device on. The current situation is Wolverine's family affair, and there might be domestic violence later. Well, the domestic violence between Logan and Mariko should be beyond the domestic violence between husband and wife that most people can imagine. At this time, Luigi decided to be a quiet spectator first, and then help when Logan really needs help. It's best not to interfere in other people's family affairs at will at this time, otherwise it will easily become a thankless act. After all, as a friend, I have done everything I can for Logan. Now it depends on how Logan wants to solve this matter. Is this child mine? Logan pointed at Dakin. This has nothing to do with you. Mariko was still trying to argue. The claws on his hands and his super recovery ability have nothing to do with me? Huh? Logan's tone was unfriendly. Anyway, I raised this kid. This has nothing to do with you, Logan. Now I think you'd better leave Japan. My people will take you to Tokyo Airport until you board the flight to New York. While Mariko was talking, more and more thugs from the Yashida group came to the room. They were wearing the same black suits, some of them were holding samurai swords, and some were holding short-handled submachine guns and pistols. After all, this time they were just meeting Harry, and it was in Ginza, Tokyo. This was their base camp, and they didn't think there would be any danger. So no one carried a rifle or other heavy weapons. Facing Mariko's threatening words, Logan did not compromise. I can leave, but I need to take him away before I go. He is not your experiment. I know there is a place suitable for him to grow up. The place Logan was talking about was naturally Xavier's School for the Gifted, a school specially opened for mutants. He will find his friends. He should go to school and live a normal life instead of being your plaything and experiment. Logan's words made Dakin's eyes brighter and brighter. Today may be the most surprising day in his life. At first, someone told him that he had a father. In the next second, the man who was his father appeared in front of him. And he also said that he would send him to school and live a normal life. This was just like a beautiful dream at night. Dakin suspected that he had not woken up. A new life? A better life? A new life away from pain, experiments, and cruel training. Dakin instantly imagined 100 ways of living in his mind, and now this new life is about to start? Exclamation mark. Come here, kid. Logan waved at Dakin, motioning him to come to his side. Logan wanted to take him away from that vicious mother, or Mariko was not worthy of being a mother. Dakin almost didn't think about going to Logan's side, but another voice that had frightened him for more than 10 years stopped him. Stop, Dakin. Come back, you know the consequences. Mariko looked at Dakin with cold eyes, and that look made him shudder. Dakin hesitated a little, he didn't know what to do. But after a moment, this hesitation was broken by himself. He had had enough of that inhuman abuse, and now Dakin was on the verge of madness. He had been trying to escape from Mariko's control and get rid of that kind of life regardless of the consequences. Now he longed for a brand new life. No one could destroy the life he longed for in his heart, no one could. So Dakin took a step towards Logan. Mariko was angry. That little devil who had always obeyed her orders actually dared to disobey her orders? This was a feeling that was almost humiliating, which made Mariko feel surprisingly angry. And this anger gave birth to her doing a stupid thing, a very, very stupid thing. She decided to give Dakin a taste of pain to let him know what he was afraid of. So she pressed the switch in her hand, and the neural equipment in Dakin's brain received the command and started working. They began to release a large amount of various chemicals that would make people feel great pain, and began to release in Dakin's pituitary gland. The large amount of released chemical components quickly spread to the entire brain through neurons. Every frontal lobe, every brain groove, every nerve ending. These chemical components began to show their power right in front of Logan. Dakin fell straight to the ground, his limbs began to twitch violently, and the huge pain attacked him and destroyed his spirit. The first to lose control were tears, snot, and saliva. Dakin was in so much pain that he couldn't control his organs, and tears began to flow out in large drops. Snot flowed out of his nasal cavity uncontrollably, and saliva flowed out from the corners of his mouth after a large amount of secretion, but Dakin couldn't wipe it off. Because his limbs were twitching. He wanted to shout loudly, but he couldn't. Because this kind of pain made it difficult for him to control his vocal cords. He could only call out meaninglessly in a low voice. It was like a lame stray dog that was hit hard on its back with a shovel and let out a mournful wail. What are you doing? Stop. Logan's anger could no longer be concealed, and a large amount of cerebral congestion made his entire face red. The veins on his forehead bulged, and Logan let out a huge roar. He asked Mariko to stop what she was doing. Leiji, who was standing by, was almost stunned, or even stupid. He had always thought that Mariko would do some simple experiments on Dakin at most, and might treat him as a bargaining chip and capital. But because Dakin was her biological child, at least she would have a mother's warmth. And now everything in front of him almost shattered Leiji's 3 views. Mariko may never have regarded Dakin as her own child. Everything she did made Leiji, who was just an outsider, feel surprisingly angry, and even felt that his soul was pulled out of anger. This was because a mother did such a cruel thing to her own son. Leiji already knew that today's matter could not be settled peacefully. Leiji had silently prepared his weapons. No matter what the reason, those who prevented Logan from bringing Dakin back today would die. Leiji could be sure of this. And he was also ready to help Logan do this. Mariko's actions made him feel an indescribable sympathy for Dakin. Now domestic violence between Logan and Mariko was inevitable. Chapter 322, Enraged Wolverine. The first person to die in this unavoidable conflict was a strong man in a black suit with a shaved head. His face was a little hideous, and the cause of his death was that he blocked Logan's direction. I don't know why there are always such people in this world. They don't know the depth of the enemy that can't stop at all, and the ending is often the price of their own life as a test. If this behavior is held for some noble and great purpose, then this behavior is understandable. But if this kind of behavior like suicide happens to some villains, such as stopping a father from rescuing his child, it will only make people feel ridiculous. The death of this bold strong man is a bit cruel. He raised his samurai sword and made a jump / common in Japanese martial arts towards Logan, who was walking towards Dakin. It is hard to imagine that such a tall and strong man can have such excellent jumping ability. He was originally in the back row of the crowd, but because of the jump / He directly jumped over the heads of several companions and chopped directly towards Logan's position. The momentum of that leap down is quite a master's style. Of course, it only looks like that. Like the sound of tearing a piece of cloth with a gap, Logan's steel claws tore the man's body and his weapon without any hindrance. The whole process was as simple as cutting tofu with a steel knife. With just a slight wave of the claws, the man's entire waist was cut off. Just like a bucket full of water was cut in the middle in an instant. The man's abdominal organs and blood poured out of his body. The large intestine and small intestine, along with the stomach, fell to the ground with a bright red blood. During this process, the man's jump cut was not completed, and he was still in midair. But it seems that his organs returned to the embrace of Mother Earth before his body. Logan didn't even look at this man, even though he was covered in blood. But it didn't matter, he was used to the smell of blood. It was like 3 meals a day, and it became a memory in his genes. Logan continued to walk slowly forward, his whole body was covered in blood. His big foot and hard-soled leather shoes stepped on the intestines that fell out of the bald man, leaving a big footprint on the intestines of red, white and yellow. Keep going forward, that is the heart that fell out. Logan didn't care, he stepped on it directly, just like stepping on a balloon. His hard-soled leather shoes directly crushed the man's heart. Part of the blood accumulated in the atrium was transmitted to all parts of the man's body, through the connected arteries, which made the skin color of a person who lost a lot of blood no longer pale, but a strange pink. The other part of the blood had nowhere to escape, and under Logan's huge pressure, it directly squeezed the man's atrium. Snap! The slight rupture sound was like a balloon bursting. African hunters all understand a simple truth. If they have to face lions and wolves, they would rather face lions than wolves. Because wolves are more vengeful than lions. If you can't kill a wolf in one go, the wolf will definitely find a way to kill you next time it meets you. So no hunter is willing to offend the wolf easily, especially when this wolf is not dead and is equipped with the sharpest and strongest adamantium claws in the world. The brutality of Logan's killing method stunned everyone. Leji suddenly felt that there was a reason why Logan could participate in all the battles on the North American continent since the War of Independence. For the terrifying wolf tank, killing is as easy as breathing. This is an indelible nightmare in Logan's genes. Since he killed his adoptive father more than 200 years ago, the mark of killing has been branded into his blood. Dakin lay on the ground twitching all over, but his eyes were always looking in the direction of Logan. The killing figure like a demon was reflected in his mind. Simple and efficient, no more nonsense. If you want to stop it, cut it off with your claws. A string in Dakin's nerve seemed to break at this moment. That subconscious habit developed by Mariko through repeated training, not to hurt others during practice, otherwise you will be cruelly punished. At this moment, the straps that would severely punish anyone who hurt others were torn apart by Wolverine in a brutal way. Dakin suddenly felt something in his body awaken. Although he was still in great pain and couldn't stop his twitching, his eyes became brighter and more fanatical. Stop him! Mariko shouted at Erman like a madman, and these people were also stunned by Logan's simple and neat killing method. Mariko was the one who was in the deepest fear at the scene, because she still remembered Logan's bloody killing of the Yashida group more than a decade ago. Every time she had a nightmare at midnight, Logan found the truth of the past and came to her for revenge. It can be said that Logan has become Mariko's inner demon. In order to deal with Logan, Mariko also found a weapon to deal with him. Carbon steel, a special steel developed by the former Soviet Union. It was originally expected to become a super defensive metal like the vibranium developed by the US government, so that it can be used in tank armor and ship armor. However, there was a slight deviation in the development of carbon steel. After the metal was manufactured, it was found that it did not have super strong defense capabilities. The former Soviet Union once abandoned this metal and thought that the experiment had failed. Until a scientist accidentally discovered the magic of carbon steel. Although this metal does not have the super strong defensive engine, it has a special ability. Any wound cut by this metal is difficult to heal. If it is an ordinary human, a finger is cut by carbon steel, even if it is a small cut, as long as it starts bleeding, then unfortunately you may need to amputate the entire finger. Because the damage caused by carbon steel cannot be healed for ordinary people, your platelets will not condense into blood to help you stop bleeding. You will bleed until you die. Chapter 323 Another clue. Carbon steel does have many magical features, but unfortunately, The country that developed this steel was already on the verge of collapse when it discovered the special features of this steel. When tens of thousands of Polish people formed a human wall and stood on the border of Polish territory to demand independence from the Soviet Union, this country, which was once one of the two poles of the world, had already sounded its final death knell. Like other black technology products buried and destroyed by the former Soviet Union, the manufacturing method of carbon steel has also been permanently sealed, and the finished products that have been manufactured have also been destroyed in large quantities. Since the Soviet Union no longer exists, the things invented by the Soviet Union do not need to exist, and those who split the motherland are not qualified to inherit the Soviet legacy. There are many communist scientists who hold this idea. On the eve of the disintegration of the Soviet Union, they frantically destroyed a large number of various technologies that the Soviet Union had developed, and carbon steel was naturally one of them. Of course, not all scientists have this idea. Some people just regard scientific research as another business, and doing business is about the highest price. And Mariko found such a scientist who regards scientific research as a business. He has mastered a lot of information about the Soviet Union's research on carbon steel. Mariko also spent a huge amount of money and spent 10 years to redevelop this kind of steel. Today, the Yasuda Group has mastered considerable carbon steel smelting technology. For example, the weapons held by these men in black and the bullets in their guns are all made of carbon steel. This is why every time Dakin and the Black Ninja are trained, as long as they are injured, the recovery speed will become very slow. Logan's fighting style is simple and rough, just as he said when chatting with Lee Ji before. As an assassin, as long as you kill everyone you see, you don't have to worry about being exposed. Relying on his super recovery ability, Logan has always solved all battles by facing them head-on. He never dodges when someone cuts him with a knife, he will only claw back. Because he knows that he will not die if he is cut with a knife. But the person who is clawed by his claws will definitely not survive. This kind of fighting mode that is deeply rooted in the bone has lasted for 200 years. So when Logan didn't know the details of the other side, he had already used his usual fighting style of exchanging injuries for lives to get rid of several black-clad thugs. However, these people left a lot of wounds on Logan before they died. Carbon steel cannot cut the adamantium in Logan's body. But it can easily cut off large pieces of skin and flesh. These black-clad thugs are all black ninjas supported by the Yasuda family for hundreds of years. Their knife skills are skilled and tricky. Every attack is cut along the texture of Logan's muscles, just like a top chef cutting beef. Large chunks of muscle and blood vessels are cut off. There are muscles from the shoulder to the back, and a long carbon steel knife is inserted into Logan's lungs. The damage to the lungs caused Logan to feel suffocated. The hole in the lungs instantly caused the blood in the body to flow back into the lung lobes, and then through the lung lobes directly to the trachea, causing Logan to cough up blood. At this time, Logan, who was already seriously injured, found that something was wrong. His wounds were healing slower, very slower. It was not the rhythm he was used to, the speed that he could recover within 2 or 3 seconds after being injured. The wounds on his body and the large amount of blood loss made his eyes blurry, and the glass crystals of his eyes became cloudy. At the same time, his thinking ability was also slowing down. And now the situation is even worse. Under Mariko's call, the thugs with the guns have removed the ordinary brass bullets and replaced them with special carbon steel bullets. Once this bullet enters Logan's body, his recovery ability will be even slower. Although it is still difficult to kill him with carbon steel alone with Logan's self-healing ability. But this is enough. As long as he can lose his ability to resist, Mariko will have plenty of ways to deal with him next. Leiji also found that something was wrong with Logan. His blood vessels were constantly flowing with blood like burst blood vessels that could not be closed. The muscles that were removed did not recover quickly at all. This gave Leiji an illusion that Logan was about to die. He originally just brought Logan here to let Logan deal with his family affairs on his own, and then arranged a suitable escape route for Logan. Because who knows what kind of trouble will come after getting involved in such private family affairs. God knows whether Deacon will think that Leiji is meddling in other people's business one day and then bear a grudge against Leiji. So Leiji did not intend to get involved in Logan's specific revenge action with a positive attitude at first. But in the current situation, Leiji felt that he had to take action. The weapons used by these people seemed to suppress Logan's recovery ability. The carbon steel bullets were already in place, and the sound of loading continued to come. Pulling the trigger drove the spring inside the Browning M1911 automatic pistol, and then the firing pin. The firing pin hit the primer, and the primer could not vent the gas produced by its combustion in the small space inside the bullet, and an explosion occurred. The impact force generated by the explosion was concentrated and restrained under the action of the gun barrel, and finally reacted to the bullet. Under the huge thrust, the bullet made of carbon steel broke away from the restraint of the shell and began to move forward inside the gun barrel. After passing through the barrel with rifling, the bullet began to strengthen and stabilize its rotation. The speed of the bullet became faster and faster. At the moment it flew out of the gun barrel, the bullet broke the speed of sound, and a huge explosion sounded at the moment it broke through the sound barrier. The speed of the bullet was so fast that even the flames that rushed out of the gun barrel with it were left far behind. With deadly rotation and scorching temperature, it flew accurately towards Logan's heart. And its companions followed closely behind. Dozens of bullets made of carbon steel flew towards Logan's vital parts, getting closer and closer. But when they were about to reach the terminal they were going to, a solid wall stopped their crazy attack. A shield made of secondary adamantium alloy firmly blocked the forward route of these bullets. The pistol bullets with a muzzle kinetic energy of only 800 joules could not penetrate the shield made of secondary adamantium alloy at all, and they were defeated here. Lee Ji stood in front of Logan with his mechanical armor. Since Harry joined the team, the raw materials for equipment manufacturing no longer had to worry about it. Lee Ji's mechanical armor had also been modified and upgraded to be better. This equipment, which was about the same size as a sleeve when stored, was always installed in his combat belt by Lee Ji to prevent any possible emergencies. The laser transmitter installed on the front of the 5 fingers of the mechanical armor had been turned on to high power, and 5 milky white laser beams instantly cut several black-clothed men who were not near Logan. "Are you okay, Logan?" Lee Ji was a little worried about Logan's condition. He looked terrible. "These weapons can suppress my self-healing ability." Logan coughed up 2 mouthfuls of blood, and he was having a hard time speaking now. However, once those who kept hurting him were separated, his self-healing ability was still recovering his injuries, and it seemed that he would not die. One Logan was already troublesome, and now there was another Lee Ji who looked equally troublesome. Mariko just wanted to leave here quickly. This was Ginza, very close to the headquarters of the Yashida Group. As long as they enter the headquarters of the Yashida Group, there are a large number of heavy weapons and 100 elf-type armors purchased from the Osborne Group. With these weapons and equipment, combined with carbon steel, Mariko is confident that she can get rid of Logan. So Mariko is not going to waste time here. She is going to take Dakin away quickly. She stopped releasing chemical components into Dakin's brain. If Dakin keeps twitching in pain on the road, it will cause her a lot of trouble. Now Dakin's 2 bone claws have been sealed by the device she implanted in Dakin's body. Dakin is now weak all over because of the severe pain he just experienced. Dakin is not dangerous now. Under the protection of her men, Mariko came to Dakin and wanted to help him up, and then leave here quickly. Dakin's head has been tilted to one side, and he is watching Logan fight. This made Mariko very uncomfortable, and she turned Dakin's head around forcefully. "Don't look." Her tone was as high-handed as ever. Dakin had no strength to resist her, and could only turn his head as Mariko's hand moved. But after turning around, Mariko looked at Dakin with a somewhat uncomfortable look. It was a look she had never seen in Dakin's eyes, not the kind of fear and cowardice. Instead, it was a bright and fearless look in a frenzy. Mariko had only seen this kind of look in the eyes of one person, and that was Wolverine Logan, who was now covered in blood. She felt a little palpitation for some reason. But she quickly dispelled this thought. I want to leave here with my father." Dakin's voice was hoarse now, but it did not prevent him from expressing his request. "Dream." Mariko's response was simple and clear. This was impossible. "No, it is possible, my mother. No one can stop my decision. I want to leave here. I am leaving. No one can stop me." Dakin had a tendency to fall into madness. "Humph." Mariko snorted disdainfully, and when she was about to take Dakin away, she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her chest and abdomen. She looked down and saw 2 sharp bone claws extending from Dakin's wrist instead of from the base of his fingers. Dakin had an almost crazy smile on his face. "No one can stop me." Chapter 324. Can we go? The sharp bone claws extended from the pulse point of Dakin's wrist and pierced straight into Mariko's chest. That's right, Dakin was unable to exert force due to the severe pain, and even raising his arm like this was a struggle. The blocked bone claws at the base of his fingers were also useless. So it made sense for Mariko to think that Deacon was safe. But nothing is absolute in this world. Whenever people feel that they are absolutely sure of something, fate will always play a big joke on them, such as now. Does it hurt? Deacon asked softly. He was no longer able to lift his arm. Just now, he barely raised his arm and used the force of the bone claws to pierce into Mariko's chest, which had already consumed all his strength. Now Deacon was completely relying on the bone claws that had pierced into Mariko's body to support his arm from falling. The direction of Deacon's bone claws was very particular, because without enough force, he could only rely on the sharpness of the bone claws themselves, so Deacon avoided the bones in Mariko's body. The bone claws were inserted directly into Mariko's body, through the gap between the sternum and the chest cavity. One on the left and one on the right. One bone claw had pierced Mariko's lung, and the other pierced into her heart. Because the bone claws were still inside Mariko's body, the two injured places did not cause a lot of internal bleeding because the bone claws blocked the wounds. But even so, Mariko felt severe pain. Because her lungs were pierced, she felt unusually strenuous from breathing to speaking. The oxygen inhaled from her nasal cavity was not enough to relieve her suffocation. She breathed in big gulps with her mouth and had no time to answer Deacon's questions. But even so, the terrifying suffocation was still getting stronger and stronger. It was like you were in the vast ocean, watching the boat you were riding start to leak water. Even if you tried desperately to scoop out the leaking seawater, you could only watch your boat slowly sinking. The perfect piercing angle. This is what those black ninjas taught me. Deacon did not remain silent because Mariko did not answer his question. He began to talk to himself. Every time they attack me, they will avoid my bones and use their knives to cut my internal organs, just like now. In this way, no matter how many times they attack me, their knives will not bend. Because a steel knife made of carbon steel is much more valuable than my flesh and bones. Isn't it? Deacon looked at Mariko's eyes with hatred and said, "Sometimes, they will do this to the knife inserted into my body. So that I can feel more pain, push me to the limit and promote my self-healing ability." Deacon turned a bone claw that was inserted into Mariko's lung, which made the wound on Mariko's lung bigger. The severe pain made Mariko's entire back arched like a shrimp. "And you? My good mother. You always look on with an expressionless face." Deacon looked at Mariko's painful appearance and felt a sense of pleasure, a feeling of revenge. The pleasure of revenge that had lasted for more than 10 years was all returned to his biggest enemy, which made his expression present an unnatural smile. "Are you curious about where this claw that suddenly appeared on my body came from?" Deacon talked about the reason that made Mariko miscalculate. "When I didn't have mutant powers, you kept stimulating me in various ways, trying to make my mutant powers appear. I thought that once I had mutant powers, my life would be a little better. But I was wrong. After I had the mutant power of self-healing, my life became even more painful. I became a beef cattle that can be slaughtered at will. I am not allowed to resist. If I resist, you will give me a huge punishment. Daily training is like wanting to kill me. Things were implanted in my brain and in my hands. I was treated like a machine and repeatedly disassembled and experimented for your ideas. Of course, one thing that is better than any machine is that even if you disassemble a thigh from my body, you don't need to find a part of the right size to reinstall it. You just need to wait for me to grow another one." Deacon said, but it seemed that he himself did not realize what he was saying. What he said now was like an nagging from instinct, and he didn't care whether there was an audience or not. The sentences he said in the past 3 years combined are probably not as many as today. So, I want something special. Something you don't know. I don't know why I want to do this, why I want to hide it from you, but there is a voice in my mind telling me that I should do this. This bone claw is hidden inside the ulna of my forearm, and it is integrated with the ulna. Even if you use an X-ray machine to check me, you have never found this hidden bone claw. Don't you feel surprised?" Deacon looked at Mariko's frightened eyes with unspeakable pleasure. Because of the damage to the lung lobe, blood entered the lungs, and Mariko had already coughed up blood. She now felt that her trachea was soaked in blood, and she couldn't breathe no matter how much oxygen she inhaled. "I am your mother." Mariko was making a final struggle to save herself, but her words made Deacon fall into deeper madness. "Thank you, mother. Thank you for bringing me into this world and letting me suffer for so many years. Now it's my turn to repay you, and the way to repay you is, I will let you leave this world in the same painful way. Goodbye, Mariko Yashida. After taking a breath for the time he just spoke, Dakin had recovered some strength. He slowly pulled out the bone claw that had pierced into Mariko's chest. At the moment when the bone claw that had pierced into the heart was pulled out, because of the high pressure generated by the blood supply to the atrium, a large amount of blood was directly splashed onto Dakin's face along Mariko's wound. But he didn't care, because wasn't his father Logan also covered in blood? This is the same badge as his father. After Dakin pulled out the bone claw, he stabbed it into Mariko's body again. Mariko, who was already on the verge of death, suffered another heavy blow. The nerves in her body subconsciously controlled her body to tremble. Then Dakin repeated the action just now. He pulled out the bone claw again and pierced it, pulled it out again and pierced it again. It was like a machine that kept going back and forth. The blood with body temperature was flying, dyeing the floor red, and also dyeing Dakin red. As time went by, Dakin's strength continued to recover, and he swung his bone claws faster and faster, with more and more force. He had forgotten the time and the place. He was just doing this subconsciously, and he even forgot why he was doing it. It was not until Logan pulled him away from Mariko's body that Dakin discovered that Mariko's entire upper body was riddled with holes, and some parts had been chopped into meat paste. And all of this was caused by him. Looking around, except for some bodies of men in black lying on the ground, the other men in black had long disappeared. 15-year-old Dakin looked up at Logan, revealing the brightest smile of his life, with snow-white teeth, blood-red face, and hair that was completely wet with blood. "Dad, can I go with you now?" Chapter 325 The Dust Settles. Osaka. We are the Industrial and Economic Crime Investigation Division. Mr. Yasuda Eiji, you are now accused of having a huge amount of property of unknown origin. We suspect that you have embezzled the property of the Osborne Group. Please come with us. In Yasuda Eiji's office, two serious-looking Japanese police officers showed their credentials and were about to arrest Yasuda Eiji. Yasuda Eiji sat in his boss chair and said calmly, "You must have made a mistake. As a national public official, your every move will cause great trouble to the people. For your arbitrary behavior, I think I will sue your agency when I meet with the Prime Minister tomorrow." Yasuda Eiji's words also contained a strong threat. Bang! The door of Yasuda Eiji's office was pushed open, and Harry Osborn and Peter Parker walked into his office with many other people that Yasuda did not know. "I think your appointment with the Prime Minister tomorrow will be cancelled, Mr. Yasuda." Harry straightened the tie of his suit and said slowly, "I will attend the meeting on your behalf to formulate a new round of East Asian economic policy." Mr. Harry, aren't you in Tokyo negotiating with Miss Mariko? And aren't you supposed to be returning home tomorrow? Wait, what do you mean? Eiji Yasuda suddenly realized that something was wrong. What do you mean? Oh well, actually I can tell you that all the evidence about your illegal transactions was reported by me. Do you understand now? Chairman Yasuda, Harry said with a smile. Peter patted Harry on the shoulder, gave him a thumbs up, and praised him for being a good guy. No. Wait. Eiji Yasuda sat in a chair somewhat dejectedly, and said in an unbelievable tone. Are you reporting me? As the chairman of the Osborne Group, you reported the chief executive of your East Asian branch, and you even let the government intervene in the investigation. Eiji Yasuda looked at Harry as if he were a madman. Do you know what you are doing? Do you know how much impact this will have on the Osborne Group globally after it gets out? I have worked for this company for 40 years. Under my leadership, the performance of the Toyo branch has been constantly refreshed, even surpassing the European branch. Is this how you repay an old employee? Yasuda Eiji felt surprisingly angry. He felt betrayed. This is the shopping mall Harry Osborne. A feeling of betrayal was gnawing at his heart. Relying on illegal methods? Sorry, I don't need such an employee. Harry glanced at Yasuda Eiji coldly. Harry recalled what Lee Ji said to him that night after he made a decision to disclose the Toyo branch's affairs, and at this moment he couldn't help but recall those words and said them in front of Yasuda Eiji. The Osborne Group is not a simple company. The company's products cover biotechnology, medical technology, military manufacturing, heavy industry research and development, and aerospace industry. Every innovation and action of the company will bring major changes to the lifestyle of human society. Harry said word by word. The German thinker Marx in the 19th century once said, "Capital is a beast that pursues profit. This beast has an appetite that can never be filled. And businessmen who control a large amount of capital should become qualified tamers to tame this beast." rather than becoming a wolf of wealth who associates with a beast. The Osborn Group controls a large amount of resources in this society, and it naturally needs to bear a lot of obligations in this society. Obligations and power are always equal. Any fool who only wants power but does not want to bear obligations will eventually be abandoned by this world. He will be crushed by the wheel of the times. Even Tony Stark has begun to change his career and become Iron Man, becoming a superhero in this world. Am I so stupid that I will let you do whatever you want? Eiji Yasuda. Harry's speech touched the surrounding police, and also made Eiji Yasuda completely understand that Harry Osborn is not Norman Osborn after all, although they are father and son. But the two have completely different ideas about doing things. The other people who came with Harry were special investigation officers of the Japanese government. He has communicated with the Japanese government, the Chinese government and the American government. The weapons and equipment that have been lost from the Osborn Group will be thoroughly investigated. The officials of the Japanese government bow deeply to Harry to show their respect for a big entrepreneur with a sense of social responsibility. Mr. Yasuda Eiji, don't waste your time. In addition to the Economic and Industrial Crime Investigation Division, there are also the Interpol Anti-Black Division and the U.S. federal government's Anti-Terrorism Special Division waiting for you. A Japanese official signaled the criminal police beside him not to pay attention to Yasuda Eiji's dying struggle and directly handcuffed him. Because it also involves the Ten Commandments Gang, a large terrorist organization that attempts to split China and stir up trouble in Central Asia, China's Shenmeo Bureau will also intervene in this investigation. Good luck to you, Mr. Yasuda. I heard that the Shenmeo Bureau's methods are not very kind. The Japanese investigator said this, but there was no sympathy in his tone, but rather a sense of gloating. The same plot was repeated in many offices of the Japanese branch. Those who were involved in Yasuda Eiji's illegal transactions were arrested one by one. If you resist, sorry, the taser is waiting. When Eiji Yasuda was being escorted away, he couldn't help but say something when he passed by Harry. You are completely different from Mr. Norman, Mr. Harry. Harry glanced at Yasuda. I am who I am. I am Harry Osborn, not the continuation of Norman Osborn. I have my friends, I have my thoughts. I won't think of anyone. Eiji Yasuda was taken away, and his accomplices were also taken away. Peter looked at the somewhat empty office and said, wow. Well, then. Our conscientious entrepreneur, now most of the senior management of the entire East Asia branch, has been swept away by you. Peter made a face at Harry. Harry shrugged helplessly. That's why we let those teams from New York travel in East Asia for 4 days instead of letting them return to New York. Jason reminded me what I should do a long time ago. After all, someone needs to help cover the shift at this time. Harry walked out of the office and looked at the company that was in a certain chaos because of the arrest of a large number of middle and senior management. Human greed, no matter if it's Eiji Yasuda or Mariko Yasuda. Harry shook his head as he spoke, not understanding what he wanted to express. Thank you for having you and Jason by my side. Thank you. Harry put his arm around Peter's shoulders and said sincerely. You're welcome, we're friends. Peter punched Harry's shoulder lightly with his hand. But what happened in Japan makes me feel so tired. It's more tiring than fighting 10 Electras on the streets of New York. I'm a little homesick, missing my uncle, Aunt and Gwen. Peter couldn't help but sighed. Yet, I want to go back too. I'm also in a hurry to watch Mary Jane's public performance next month. Harry sighed like Peter, but he soon laughed again. What did you just say? Fight 10 Electras? If you really meet 10 Electras, you will be beaten and run away. Don't underestimate Spider-Man's potential. You can monster in black tin. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.